We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk films past, present, and future. I'm Sherman Trey White of Podcast Media, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, starting to see pictures, ain't ya? Bandit Incorporated.
What? Hello.
Yeah.
Here we are once again.
Yes. All right.
Ready to talk about our favorite actor ever, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
The guy we both think should win an Oscar, but probably not for this movie.
You know, that bear needs that. We'll get to that. But
yeah, that bear deserves an Oscar, certainly.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So, Ben, how you been, man? How you been doing?
I've been really good. It's the middle of a heat wave here in Australia. I've only just turned the fan off 5 minutes ago, and I'm already starting to sweat in this room. So, looking forward to the next hour.
Oh, that sounds awesome. See, the way Texas work is that, you know, we're in the middle of winter. Technically, we're in the middle of winter, but the way it works is that, you know, it can be 30 degrees in the morning, and by 4 o'clock or by maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll be 82 degrees. So with Texas, it's kind of always summer, or you know, summer for us is like 96 degrees. So it's kind of always spring. So, you know, the heat is just... I was out today working on stuff for the short film, and man, it's hot.
Yeah. Well, here it's mostly just the humidity, because it's kind of like a rainforest sort of type of area. So,
right. Man,
the humidity is just a killer. It really is.
It's a bunch of giant spiders and kangaroos. Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
Of course. And dates with Channing Tatum, yeah. Oh, we'll get to that later. All right, so Bandit, you know, all that good stuff. Let's get into the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
All right, so here's a quick thing. Not a lot of movie news this week, but that's okay. Before we get into our first story, how fresh do you want to go into Batman Superman?
About however fresh or not fresh I am now.
Okay. Because
I think it would be hard for them to ruin anything else. I mean, I've seen a few videos on YouTube, which kind of says stuff in the thumbnail, but I haven't bothered to watch them. So, but just go ahead. For the sake of the news, go ahead and say it.
Well, Entertainment
Time
Weekly...
code's in the description for anyone who wants to skip, as always.
Yeah, Entertainment Weekly released some new pictures from the film, and one of them was Batman in that kind of nightmare setting, you know, the Mad Max Batman, the one where he supposedly kills somebody, but, you know, he's snapped necks before and not killed him in the comics. Yeah. You know, and Joker. And... And he's looking over what looks like the Omega symbol, which is, you know, the dark side thing. Have you seen this picture, Bandit? Have you heard about this? You know, what are your impressions?
Yeah, that's the picture I saw in the thumbnails. Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Darkseid, that's got nothing to do with Star Wars. In DC, there's a villain who's this giant rock guy, and he's called Darkseid, spelt dark. Side is SEID for some reason.
I before E, except after C, plus a few exceptions.
That's right. And he's basically like a space dictator. He's part of the new gods. The idea is in the DC comics, there's old gods like, you know, Zeus and all that. They've all died out, and there's a whole series of new gods, and Darkseid is one of them. And he's like one of the few people that can beat up Superman. And he always says to her, he's like, well, super or otherwise, you're just a man, but I'm a god. So he's a big deal. And so it sounds like this nightmare sequence is, you know, Batman getting a vision of Darkseid attacking the Earth. We do see what look like the parademons, which is Darkseid's henchmen with the wings flying around. So it's probably some dream sequence kind of vision thing from that.
Yeah, I'm a little precautious with the parademons because I feel like I'd be okay with it. With the Justice League movie being them fighting Darkseid, which means that they fight all his parademons, I'm okay with that. My issue is that the world, like the fan base online, the film people, the watchers, are not going to be okay with that because they're going to be like, it's just the same thing as Avengers, you know, they're all fighting drones. I'm like, yeah, but come on, you know, it's it's a comic book movie. If it's a big budget thing like this, I feel like people are gonna look at that and instantly compare it to the Avengers and say, but except no one's cracking jokes, so it's stupid. So
yeah, I thought the same thing. I said the same thing a while back in one of my videos that, I mean, in many ways it makes sense to have Darkseid, but people are just going to think it's a rip-off of Thanos, even though Thanos is rip-off of Darkseid in the comics. Darkseid did come first.
Darkseid might come first in the movies if he's going to be the villain in Justice League 1. Before we get, because then we'll get Justice League 1 comes out November of 2017, and Infinity War Part 1 comes out in May of 2018. So if they put Darkseid in Justice League, we will get him before we get Thanos. And since, X-Men's messing up Apocalypse, we're not going to have to worry about that getting in the way. But
yeah, you reckon they're trying to beat him to the punch?
Not necessarily. I think it's just a matter of a coincidence. Because ultimately, and someone like a movie reviewer / podcaster John Campea of AMC and Collider Movie Talk, he made a really great point a while back, and he constantly makes this point. He says, DC does not want Marvel to fail. Marvel doesn't want DC to fail. They both want each other to be as successful as possible. That way, they can both make as great movies as possible.
Yeah,
you see him.
Yeah,
like,
and I think it's always good to have healthy competition. But the more I think about it, the more I don't think it'll be a problem, because the way that Marvel handles villains and the way DC handles villains are totally different. Because, as many people have pointed out, Marvel's got a problem with villains. None of them really seem threatening. Their most charismatic villain is Loki, who's actually more of an anti-hero than a villain. And whereas DC, on the other hand, always has fantastic villains. Like Joker always overshadows Batman. And Suicide Squad it's full of villains pretty much. So for anyone who's angry that Thanos isn't threatening enough, I reckon Darkseid is probably going to be pretty damn intimidating.
People that say Thanos isn't threatening enough is because they haven't seen him do anything yet. People need to calm down. He has never been the main villain of a movie yet. Also, I think it's funny that people always rack on Marvel for having, boring villains who just want to take over the world. But the moment Ultron shows personality, they call him stupid and unthreatening. I'm like, well, what do you want?
I think that's the thing, though. Like, if they're not going to have Thanos do anything, then don't show him yet. Have him be like the Emperor in Star Wars. You don't really see him properly until the last movie. You see him once in the second, but he's just an elusive hologram. So it builds up to him. Should be the same with Thanos. If he's not going to do anything, don't show him yet. Just hint that he's there in the background. But anyway,
and yet if they show, I can't bring up Force Awakens. Darn. All right, never mind. No, I see what you're saying.
No, you can. I'm not allowed to say bad things about Force Awakens.
It's just that they want to show off a hologram in Force Awakens. People call it bad CG, but if they show it in Empire Strikes Back, it's the best thing ever. No, but my thing is that
okay.
Yeah, my thing is it's that I think with the whole Thanos situation, I feel like it's nice to show that there is someone out there that is coming. And I think, I will give you Age of Ultron. I don't think that needed to be a thing, but everything before that, his scenes in Guardians were fantastic. I love the tease at the end of the first Avengers. We've only seen him 3 times, and I'll give you Age of Ultron. But I don't have a problem with
that scene at the end of Age of Ultron where he gets the gauntlet and he's like, finally, I'll just do it myself. That's a direct result of everyone being like, Thanos doesn't really do much. I don't think it's an accident that they had him doing that.
It's definitely not.
Like, he's finally going to do something now. Remember how it should have ended, made fun of it?
My thing is that I just want... I don't want people to complain that Justice League isn't good because it has a bunch of drones at the end that they're fighting. Because even if it has great characters and a really cool villain and, really, a well-written, very well-directed, Zack Snyder actually knocks it out of the park in terms of both the visual and storytelling markets. If it has a bunch of drones at the end they're fighting, people are going to complain about that and say the movie sucks. And that's going to bug me because I know it's going to happen. I'm calling it now a year and a half in advance. But let's move on. I digress.
Sure.
Okay, so a movie studio known as Leica, which actually kind of has a very special place in my heart. They make a bunch of stop-motion animated films. Their first, I think, official film, Coraline, which came out, at this point, 7 years ago, good lord, was the first film I remember seeing in theaters by myself. It was a 3D, stop-motion animated, free... Have you seen Coraline?
No.
Oh my god, okay. So have you heard of the film at all?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. So let me break this down
It's
to
the
you.
first time I've ever heard of it.
Really? Okay. All right. Let me break this down to you. It is the story of this girl. Hopefully people are watching will know a little bit about this. It's the story of this girl who moves into this new house. She's drag about it. She's bored. Everything about this is dull and gray. It's horrible. Her parents are neglectful, kind of. They're all busy about work and whatnot. She doesn't like her home. And then she discovers this little square door in one of the extra rooms in her house. And she finds this key. And when she opens the door, she discovers this tunnel this colorful, bright green tunnel that leads to this completely opposite world. Everything in the world, it's the exact same. It's the exact same
the
house.
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
No, it's the exact same. No, it's the exact same house. It's the exact same people, but everything's vibrant and bright and colorful and magical. But there is one catch: everyone's eyes are made out of buttons, and there's a point for that. And that's really all I can really give away. And it's about this girl, going into this fantasy land and trying to figure out, is there something off about this land? Is there something that she needs to do? It's a really nice adventure film. Anyone who's seen it knows that there's more to it than what I'm just explaining here, but I'm going to make that your homework, Bandit. If you see any film, go out and see the films I'm recommending to you now, because they did Coraline, and then a couple of years later, they did Paranorman. Have you heard of Paranorman?
How do you spell Coraline?
Coraline. It's Caroline just with an O instead of an A.
Okay.
Have you Google's it in Pirate Bay. Have you heard of Paranorman?
Yeah, the Tim Burton thing.
No. What? No. What?
Isn't that a Tim Burton movie? It looks like one.
Are you thinking of Frankenweenie, where the boy brings his dog back to life?
I don't know. I haven't seen either of them. So
It's okay. Paranorman's about a kid that can speak to ghosts.
I don't watch a lot of kids' movies. Okay.
I think you should.
It's only when I take my nephew to movies that I actually end up seeing them.
You should start seeing more. Some of them are really spectacular, including Paranorman. Paranorman, it tells the story of a boy who can speak to a ghost, and when a town curse, when zombies come invade the town through a town curse, it's up to Norman to try to bring everything back to normal and resolve the issue. And it's really good. It has a really great morality on bullying and how it's nice and how you need to. Don't worry about what people say about you. It's a wonderful film, and anyone who's seen the film knows that it's great. It's actually kind of progressive in some of its characters. I really love everything about that movie. Of course, then they did a couple more movies that weren't very good, but then Leica released their trailer for their newest film, due out in August, called Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, Bandit, you've seen the trailer. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it started out real interesting, and then it was kind of good.
Explain, elaborate.
Well, the trailer starts out and it's like there's like this character sort of paddling on the ocean in some kind of canoe thing, and this voiceover is going, "Watch really carefully. Watch every detail, because the smallest thing is going to be important, and if you look away for a second, you could miss it." So I was kind of like glued to the screen going, what's going to happen?
It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. You should just like you can tell Nolan came in and just like, I gotta make this for my daughter, and now he wants to make it as complicated as possible. Sorry, keep going.
You see a whole bunch of top hats,
Yeah. Michael Caine's the narrator.
Yeah, and so it started out real cool, and then it just turned into just your basic trailer of, hey, wacky adventures in this weird world. So I don't know, what do you think about it?
You think the adventures seemed wacky? I don't know. I think it seemed like really kind of innovative and different. We don't see a lot of, having seen a lot of animated films, we don't see a lot like this. I got kind of a Mulan feel from it at first. It's very much, you can tell it's very Asian oriented. Mm-hmm. And it looks like darker and creepier, classic Leica, I guess. It looks like, the characters that Rooney Mara plays, these two weird, kind of like Michael Myers, faced witch things. Well, I don't know whatever they are, but they look creepy. I think the animation looks beautiful. The opening shot, like you said, when she's on the water, and uses the guitar to rip apart the giant tsunami. You're like, wow, this looks amazing. Mm. And it looks like, I honestly, I have no idea what the film is about. So I just, from what I can, yeah, exactly. Which I love. I love going into movies not knowing what it's going to be about. But
I did find it interesting, although unless I totally misunderstood, it does look like Charlize Theron is voicing a monkey.
Yes,
and not a sexy monkey either, just a regular monkey.
I got a Tarzan feel from that, by the way. I got a Tarzan feel from that. I think that this has a chance to be something special. I think my one gripe is Matthew McConaughey because he's really trying to hide that Texas accent.
Yeah.
But it's weird trying to hear Matthew McConaughey talk without his southern drawl. He's voicing like this giant like beetle thing. But it looks cool. And I'm really excited to see what they can give us this time. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It looks good.
Absolutely. Well, Bandit, we had some homework.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment. You're gonna go out, you're gonna start a fight with a total stranger. You're gonna start a fight, and you're gonna lose.
I saw quite a few movies since our last adventure hurrah here. I saw about 3 films.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Well, the first one I saw was because, I was at home and I'm like, well, this movie's not playing in theaters anymore and it's rated R, so I'm going to chappy it. And I have time because I don't go to bed usually till midnight during the week because I have homework, but I had extra time that night. So I sat down and watched Anomalisa. Now, Bandit, you might be thinking, what are these movies he's bringing up? Anomalisa.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Do you know who Charlie Kaufman is?
No.
He is the guy that did Internal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Why are you bringing up so many obscure movies? Our listeners are going to be like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
You have no idea what Internal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is. Jim Carrey? Kate Winslet?
I know who Jim Carrey is, but I've never heard of it before.
I know Jim Carrey. Okay, well, tell you what.
Tell me what this is and explain to me why I should care.
Okay, well, that's my job here, I guess. That's what, because apparently, I guarantee you, maybe one person that's listening to this is like, oh, I heard of Anomalisa. I can relate to this story. But it's like, okay, so Charlie Kaufman, he's an indie filmmaker. He does a lot of original, quirky work, and he decided to sit down and make, ironically enough, a stop-motion animated film. But the difference between this one and a lot of other stop-motion animated films is that you're watching it, and they put so much detail and so much kind of little nuances into their models, into their backgrounds. So it's a very beautiful looking movie. And the plot of the story is that, I don't know, I really don't know how to explain this to you without you never having heard of it. Okay. So it's about this guy named, I think his name is David. And he, he's voiced by, do you know who David Thewlis is?
No.
Christ almighty. Have you ever seen the Harry Potter movies?
No.
All right.
I don't watch kids' movies, okay?
First of all, this isn't a
okay, so
movie.
It's called Mona Lisa and it's stop motion. Okay, what else can you tell me about it?
First of all, it's called Anomalisa, like anomaly. And it's about this guy who has written a book on customer service, and so he goes to this hotel getting ready to speak at a seminar about his book, and while there he meets this girl and they spark a romance. That's the basic plot of the movie. But it's about how the film is executed. First of all, it's an R-rated film, which was very unique because you've never seen an R-rated stop-motion film before.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh? Sorry?
I said yeah.
Yeah. It's like hard R. Like there's like, I don't know how to say this without sounding crass. There's puppet sex. And so it's like Team America. Like Team America,
I was gonna say that's the other time.
Yeah. But it's like, but it's played completely straight serious. And the best part about it is that I bought into it. There's like graphic nudity and it's puppets. Like you're seeing, I don't know how to say this without sounding
when Team America was on the TV here, they actually censored some of the puppet sex scene because it was too graphic, but it's puppets.
Just wait till you see Anomalisa. Like you see male genitals, but it's stop motion, and so you're just like, what am I? And the director, Charlie Kaufman, really had some balls here because, typical animated films, you have multiple voiceovers, or multiple voice actors, multiple people talking. This movie has 3 voices. You have the voice of the main guy, the voice of the main chick, and then every other voice in this movie is done by one guy, specifically one guy. And initially that sounds very strange, but the way they do it is that there's so much different. He's able to make it, how when you do like an impersonation of somebody and like it's still kind of in your voice, there's so much different nuance in his voice acting so that it sounds like when a girl is talking, you hear the guy's voice, but it sounds like a girl is talking to you. When you hear a 6-year-old talking, You hear the guy's voice, but it sounds like that. You sound like a 6-year-old is talking to you. And initially, it's very strange. It's very jarring, but eventually, it works out, and it tells this really gripping story of depression and loss, and just how far someone is willing to go to try to find a new spark in their love life, and just what it means to be human. And there's some weird things that go on. I can't keep going on for long because I'm probably confusing the heck out of our audience, but just go out and look out the movie Anomalisa. Check it out. Check out the trailer if you would. It's really good. It's a little slow, I'll give you that, but it's so well crafted. It's such a beautiful film to look at, and Charlie Kaufman really knocked it out of the park. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. You had me sold with the stop motion sex scene. I was like, I wonder how they're even.
It's not played like you really won't laugh watching it, which is the weirdest thing, because you're sitting here invested in these puppets making love, and you're just like, oh yeah, all right, yeah, it's a love scene, but it's puppets. Like you forget it's puppets for a while, which is crazy.
All right. Well, if you're done, I could jump into one of mine.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. I saw, finally, your favorite movie of all time, Steve Jobs.
Listen, let's not get too crazy. This implied that you didn't like it. Did you not like it?
Yes, I absolutely liked it. I really did.
Good.
It really got me thinking about, like, Steve Jobs. Like, yeah, because like, I wonder how it is, because obviously, like, it's all based off a true story. And obviously they did a bit of, like, I think you mentioned when you talked about it that if it's set, like, they've only got, like, 10 minutes before he has to go out on stage, but it goes for, like, half an hour.
Yeah.
And all these people keep appearing, and I'm sure they sort of compress stuff together like that. But, yeah, it does make me wonder, though, like, with Steve Jobs, I'm like, I know he had a reputation for being, like, a jerk and, yeah, treating people badly and stuff, but I was like, I wonder if he was really that bad, though. What do you think? Do you think he was really as much of a jerk as he was in that?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, probably.
I think just because, and I said this back when I first saw it and talked about it on the show, it's about being able to, sacrifice human connection for your craft, and being able to, sometimes it's necessary to be this kind of human being if you want to change the world. And he knew what he was doing was going to change the world, and people just didn't see it back then. And of course, spoilers for the film, but it's a true story, so whatever. How did you feel about the ending where he designed the iMac off of a drawing his daughter did on his first computer?
Oh, is that what it was? Because I never really saw it.
I saw it that way. Well, it's just because it's like, you see the iMac and you see what it looks like, and you see the drawing back when that first Macintosh computer, his daughter gets on there and just draws something. Yeah. I don't know. I picked it up.
I didn't see the shape of the iMac in that. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he took out the picture, I thought, would have been better if they changed it that she drew an apple. And that's what he made the logo of. But anyway.
Yeah,
but I think I found it really interesting because, like when he's talking about that whole thing of how he was, like, adopted, but there was this whole thing of, like, he was adopted, but then he was given back, and he was adopted again by someone else. And because I've found that there's actually a lot of people who are kind of like Steve Jobs who sort of really excel in one area. A lot of them are actually orphans or abandoned in some way. Like, I think Elvis Presley was another one who was like that.
Yeah.
That seems to happen a lot. It's almost like being denied sort of that love when they grow up sort of gets transformed into this incredible drive when they get older.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like their passion and their ability to want to, make a craft and want to do something with their lives is their way of coping with the fact that they were abandoned and were left alone as a child. That's just the way they deal with certain things. That's how I looked at it. What do you think about everyone in, like, their performances? Do you feel like Michael Fassbender was better than DiCaprio?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Me too. Yeah.
Not just in, like, how well he, like, after a while I didn't sort of see Michael Fassbender.
No.
I just started to see Steve Jobs, but also that he was playing Steve Jobs at 4 different points in his life.
Yes.
Because there's, like, 3 different points, but then there's flashbacks to when he's much younger too. He's got, like, the longer hair and the hippie beard and all the rest of it. So that he can convincingly play him at 4 different points in his life, I thought was just amazing. But yeah, like, I love scenes, like, I really love that movie, like, because there's different parts where, like, I love movies where people have, like, a verbal jousting, sort of thing. And like,
This
of
movie's
course,
all
that's...
about the verbal jousting.
Oh,
This movie,
yeah.
it reminds me of the Family Guy joke whenever they're watching TV and it's like, now back to Aaron Sorkin's, I think it's like Aaron Sorkin's Living Buddies, and it's just these two guys talking about getting milk, and it's just, he's like, did you get the milk? Yes, I got the milk. What do you think about the milk? I love the milk. What about you? And like, they're walking down this long hallway, just talking like about the milk, and it's... After watching Steve Jobs, I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly what the... But yeah, this movie is all about verbal sparring, but keep going.
Yeah, yeah. And what was I going to say? Yeah, like I just love scenes like that. Like when I watch House of Cards, whenever there's an argument in that, I'll always like scrub back and watch it again because they're just really good. I like.
And Kevin
I just
Spacey,
like
Kevin
arguing.
Spacey
I
looks
don't know
at
if
the
you've
camera.
noticed or not, but I just love arguing. But anyway,
I can tell.
But the yeah, I think the thing that kind of stuck out with me the most is because like I find myself still thinking about like as a character study of sort of like Steve Jobs, like why did he do the things he did and why was he the way he was, and especially like with like there's this running theme that kind of blows up towards the end with like guess you could say probably the closest thing he has to a friend played by like Seth, what's his name? Oh, God, whatever. But it's like this running thing where he's constantly refusing to give any credit to the Apple II. Yeah. And his friend's always like, just give him a shout out. And he's like, no. And it sort of blows up at the end. And I'm still thinking about it now. Like, I'm like, why? What was his problem? Why couldn't he just say, you know what? You know, shout out to all the guys who did the Apple II. You know, that kept us in business. It kept the money flowing. It provided a stable foundation for the business in order for us to build the next generation, which is this. Like, that's all he needed to say. But he's just like, no. And I don't know. What's your take on it?
I think his reasoning is that, you know, and whether or not I agree with this is not, but this is where I could see where he would pull it, is that, you know, he wants people to focus on what is now. He does not want people to think about, because people there. If you look at today, people will look like, even when the new iPhone comes out, people will say, and I always hear this, it's like, well, it's just the same as the last one, just with more stuff on it. Like and I think that's kind of the mindset he was worried about he was like, and also think to the Apple II for humble beginnings. People would look at that and say, well, why don't you just keep the Apple II, but, you know, make it newer? Like, and so like, I can understand he wants people to have the complete mindset of forget the Apple II. Don't worry about the Apple II. Worry about this. This is the next big thing. This is the new thing. The Apple II, do not worry about. Plus, people don't care that the Apple II kept Apple in business. People care about what is it that Apple's going to present to us. You know, like, if you, like, you see what I'm trying to get at here? It was still a dick move, but I just understand why I'm seeing that probably might be why he did it.
Yeah, because like at the first like couple of times it comes up, that's where I was like, yeah, he's launching a new product. He wants to focus on that. He doesn't want people to focus on the past. But as it goes on, I'm like, it seems more personal. And, you know, that guy, he's like, you know, is it because it's the best selling product the company had and you had nothing to do with it? Is that why you don't want to talk about it? So I'm thinking,
might be.
Maybe it is that. Or, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So I have to ask you, what was the moment that when which Michael Fassbender got lost in the role? Because for me, it's right after, it's right when they're talking at the start about the about how it won't talk back to you or something like that. The computer won't talk back to you. It was right at the point when, you know, they're like, we can't leave, we have to leave the exit signs on, we can't have them off. And he turns to him, I think he says, you know, if there ever happens to be a fire, it'll be a worthy story for those who survived. That's the line where I said, I was like, wow, I'm gone. I'm completely lost in this role, because I turned to Christian and I said, Christian, this reminds me exactly when we made that Star Wars trailer. This reminds me exactly about that. And I won't reveal some of the things that went down when we were making the Star Wars trailer, because it's just that it's personal. But my point is, it's like, and I brought this up back when I first saw it. Now that we've seen the movie, I can make this connection even further. Creating something on a mass scale is difficult, and I think what's more challenging about it is when you're the person creating it and everyone else is helping you make it. You know, because you have a vision in your head, and when there is nothing for someone to see in front of you, it makes them it can make them seem a little bit, you know, uneasy about the ordeal. That's the reason the Star Wars prequels failed as much as they did. You know, if you watch the original New Hope, it's nothing like what Ralph McQuarrie gave to Fox. That's what got George Lucas the money, you know. But something like Steve Jobs, they just had to trust in Steve Jobs, and so that when I lost my train of thought. Oops. Oh boy, keep going, Bandit.
Sure. Well, yeah, I thought I liked the way they handled it as well, though, because it wasn't just like, because it also showed a lot of his failures and a lot of the things he did wrong, and a lot of that's directly related to that personality that he has. So I think it did a good job of showing like both that, yeah, on the one hand, yeah, you do need that kind of drive and determination in order to achieve great things, but on the other hand, you also need to, like, if he had been like his friend at the end says, like, you know, it's not binary, you can still be a decent person and gifted at the same time. And it's like, you think about it, because like when he got thrown out of Apple, that was not based off any of the
scene,
products
by the
or
way.
anything.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a
Oh,
wonderful scene. Oh my god,
I loved all the scenes between him
cause,
and the CEO guy. They were great.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels, because it cuts back between him talking like right before he's about to go present. I think it's the Cube, and then oh man, that's such a. I gotta go watch that movie again. Oh man, I love that movie.
But I think it showed, like, I mean, he didn't get fired because of anything he did or anything he didn't do. He got fired because of the way he was. It was not what he did, it was how he did it. So you think, like, if he had taken his friend's advice and been able to smooth out his rough edges in personality, he still would have been able to do all the innovation that he did do in Apple, but he wouldn't have had to go through the whole thing where he gets fired, then has to create the next as a way to get back into Apple again and have all those broken friendships. And I think that bit at the end where he meets up with the CEO guy again at the end is like, see the things we could have done together. I think that was a good way of showing that, of like, yeah, like, you do need to be a bit of a jerk to do like impressive stuff, but you don't need to be a jerk all the time.
I don't
want to drive people away. So I think
I'm not
it's a
going to
good
say
balance.
I disagree with you. I'm not going to say I disagree with you, but I will say that I don't think he would have had the drive to keep going if he wasn't such a douche and got fired from Apple. I think if Apple kept pushing him through and he would have been nicer to people, then he wouldn't have been as successful as he was, because he wouldn't have known what it feels like to have just this big personal failure, you know. And I think, you know, it kind of humbles him in a certain aspect, you know. The Cube, granted, was created specifically to get himself back into Apple, but at the same time, it allowed him to become smarter business wise. Allowed him to say, well, here's what I'm going to do. I think him being the way he was the perfect way for him, you know, to basically create something that was going to rule the world by the time he passed.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting for interesting for me as well, because like growing up in that, I remember like all the iMacs and everything being in school and in the computer labs. We all had the iMacs and everything. But you know, the thing with, because him and Bill Gates, they had their whole falling out, which they didn't cover in the movie because that would be like a whole movie in itself. But it's kind of like, see, Steve Jobs was like, he's a big picture guy, like they said, but he saw so far down the road that he couldn't really see what needed to happen now. Like, all the stuff he saw with the innovation, with the computers and making it more personalized was all right, but it was too far down the road. People needed a connection, you know, a connecting.
He still had a
phase.
kid. He still had a kid to take care of at that point. Like,
oh yeah. But I mean, like, when Bill Gates ripped off a lot of his design and went off and made Windows and IBM and all that, that did sort of that was sort of the step in between. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, like, his vision was right, but his inability to see that you have to take steps to get there, you know? So, like, Bill Gates disappearing and doing IBM sort of built those steps to help him get where he was. Yeah. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Like I said, I agree with you. I think that, you know, you don't need to be 100%, to quote Star-Lord, 100% a dick to be successful. But I think he did the way exactly he needed to do it. I think everything played out pretty well, except for the whole, you know, cancer thing. Because I think if he would have been around, I think the iPhone 5 would have been something really special. You know, if he would have still been alive today, I think now, because think about it, he did the iPad, you know, I think he would have made something else really. I think he would have been like the James Cameron of computers, of James Cameron of phones, where like every time he came out with something new, it blows people's minds. because I've watched that presentation of the first iPhone like 12 times ever since seeing the movie, because they're like, man, how many people did he upset behind the scenes?
Yeah.
We're trying to, because the brightness on the iPhone wasn't right or something, but because he's that line when he says, the Mac is beige, I'm beige, the optical disc is blue, my shirt needs to be white. It's just like things like that, and it's and everyone's great in it. Seth Rogen actually does really well in his role. He really steps out of his comfort zone, and it shows. But at the same time, I think they abuse his schlubbiness to his advantage. I think the guy that plays Andy Hertzfeld, or which one, which is a great line, Andy, which one? But I think the guy that plays Hertzfeld, who was actually, if you've seen Men in Black 3, he's the alien that can see alternate realities in Men in Black 3.
Yeah.
That's just a little touch. But he's great.
That's right.
I just noted, the moment I saw his face, I'm like, oh, it's that alien from Men in Black 3, because you never forget that face.
Yeah.
But he's great. He has a great moment with Steve Jobs in, I think, 1998 when he talks about how he gave his daughter the money. Kate Winslet probably has the performance of the last couple of years in terms of her career. She's great in this movie. That scene where she's like, you need to fix this. I put that scene in my review. She's like, you need to fix this. And she's knocking things over the table. She's so mad because she sat there and watched this father neglect his daughter, because I like how he came up with a mathematical equation to why she's not his daughter. And man, it's just like,
yeah.
He's like 60.
Well, he didn't want to be a dad because being an orphan and that, he must have known that he didn't really have what it takes to be a good dad.
It's like he said, 60% of America is more likely to be here.
Yeah. But it's funny because later on when he talks to the CEO guy, and he tells the story about how his parents sort of gave him away. That's kind of what he tried to do to his daughter, really, wasn't it? He basically did the same thing to her. He tried to say, "And it's not my kid," and tried to give her away. So yeah,
I think my
cycle
favorite
repeats, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's 89 or 88. Steve Jobs, the second act of the movie, if you will, when it's Jeff Daniels and they're talking about how he got fired from Apple, and when he has a conversation with his daughter. I think that's my favorite section of the movie because it's ironically, it's the Empire Strikes Back of the movie. It's when things take the darker turn. It's when, but at the same time, there's still this kind of heart there when he's having that conversation with his daughter, and there's a sliver in his eyes where he's just like, maybe I want to have this daughter by my side, and I think that my main issue with the movie is the ending itself. The last maybe 5 minutes of the film don't work for me at all. I don't know if it's the older daughter or if it's this Fassbender just looks bored. I don't know, but something about that last 5 minutes does not work for me at all. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't connected to it. I don't know. I really don't know why. I don't know. Something seemed off to me. But overall, Steve Jobs is a fantastic movie, and I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Did any of the performance get nominated for an Oscar?
I know Fassbender got Best Actor, and I think Kate Winslet got Best Supporting Actress. I think that's it. Oh,
good. I'm glad they got some credit for that.
Yeah.
They definitely deserved it.
Aaron Sorkin did not get nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which is bull.
Really?
which is some beef shank because
he certainly should have. That's amazing how he put it all together like that.
Just from the get-go, right from the get-go, it is just I think it's 8 minutes of people looking at a screen and talking about an optical disc or whatever, or the fact that the computer can't talk back. And then the camera pans over and it tracks them into this room, in which case it's Catherine Watterson, who's great, talking about how she needs to be there for his daughter. And it's everything. Oh, man, Aaron Sorkin. Bravo. I think this might be one of his best films that he's written. He's doing a movie on Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy, starring Cate Blanchett, which is... Oh, that's going to be great. Okay. So, Bandit... Okay. I saw another film. Like I said, I've seen 3 films. And I saw Kung Fu Panda 3.
Yay!
About a couple of weeks ago, I think, at this point. We were going to talk about it last week, but we decided to save it for this week.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Can't remember.
I was going to see it this weekend, but I'm going to see it next weekend instead. Was it good?
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's everything about the Kung Fu Panda movies that you really like. The action's really great. Poe is really awesome as a schlub kind of panda. But Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You know, these films are always so shocking because the trailers are always crap. Like, it never fails. Like, these trailers always suck for these movies, which is a shame because these movies always tend to surprise me. Jack Black's great as a Poe. What's his name? Dustin Hoffman is always great as Shifu. Everyone's great in their usual roles. You know, Tigress is usually as boring as usual, but you know what really stands out in this film is the animation, which is weird because we're in an age like with a film like Anomalisa or the Pixar stuff, and where animation is just kind of taken for granted and just like, yeah, it's supposed to look beautiful, but Kung Fu Panda looks different. And I noticed that right away. Like, there's a lot of 2D watercolors, a lot of paintings, you know, and it really helps the film stand out to other modern animated films where it's just like, yeah, it looks real. But this one looks stylized like it's supposed to. You know, like the main villain has these green knives, these green kind of giant knives, and you know, and they look fake. They don't look real, but they're not supposed to, but they do. They still look great. But what's the best thing about this movie is it actually goes places that you wouldn't think a movie like Kung Fu Panda would go, but then you remember that Kung Fu Panda 2 went places that Kung Fu Panda wouldn't go. You know, like have you seen the first two?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like in Kung Fu Panda 2, when, you know, we suddenly get, you know, these 2D animated flashback of how his mom died. And you're just like, Christ! Like, that got dark really quickly, but like from that point on, the movie was amazing. And just like with Kung Fu Panda 3, there's a certain point, and it actually happens earlier on in the film than we think. From that point on, the movie is just awesome. Everything about the film from that point on, that I won't give away here because you're seeing it soon. But when something has to do with Bryan Cranston's character, his father, that from that point on, it is just. It's so great. It's funny. It's action packed. Everyone in it's amazing. There's some really great gag about hugs that I didn't think would. It's amazing how they can find new ways for the lesson of believing in yourself. To, you know, in the first movie, it's, you know, Poe has to become a dragon warrior. He has to become the master. Believe in yourself. In the second one, it's, you know, find your inner peace, find your anger, and find, you know, fuel in your anger and believe in yourself. This one, it's, you know, they're doing the same kind of message from the first film, but it's much more loosely given to his whole panda village of believe in yourself and you can take down evil and whatnot. But where they go with it in the last, I'd say maybe 15 minutes, you're just like, whoa, that's cool. Like, you like, yeah, like I remember like my friend Christian didn't enjoy it as much as I did, but like when the movie takes a certain turn and certain things happen, remember in the Lego movie, whenever it went to live action out of nowhere? Mm-hmm. And you're just like, whoa, that's awesome. The movie doesn't go to live action, but it does something like that to where you're just like, this franchise has never done that before, but it's amazing. And I'm trying to be vague because it really is. And like I said, from that emotional point on, it's wonderful. I loved it. I loved it.
I'm looking forward to it now.
I hope I don't overhype it for you because I don't want you to come back and be like, yeah, it's good. You know, it's all right. You know,
I think it's good. It's like it's been a while since the second one, hasn't it?
Yeah, that came out. This will be almost 5 years. Yeah.
Oh wow, it seems longer than that.
DreamWorks hasn't had. It's refreshing because DreamWorks, man, they are slipping. Like. We haven't had a great DreamWorks film in years, man. Like the first How to Train Your Dragon is one of my all-time favorite films. I love the first How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Kung Fu Panda 2 was great. I really liked Megamind. Most people don't. Yeah, Megamind is. I love Megamind. You know, but pretty much after that, I think Madagascar 3 is pretty solid. But in How to Train Your Dragon 2, when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not into this, but I think the more it's like Captain America: Winter Soldier, the more I watch it, the more I find to like in it. But I still think I still think it's inferior to the first film. But Kung Fu Panda has always been that franchise of like, hey, it's good. I'm still debating whether or not it's better than the second one because I wasn't expecting the second film to go the way it went. But you know, it's the second one's just that bigger scale and this does the action really well. You know, when they're fighting the wolves, you know, but it's like. It's good. I'm glad I enjoyed it. Those trailers always suck though. DreamWorks does crappy trailers.
I do like the bit in the trailer for the second one where he's like, "My fist hungers for justice," and then his stomach rolls and he's like,
Yeah,
that was my fist.
but that's all the marketing. The marketing is the equivalent of the marketing of Paul Blart Mall Cop. You're just like, this movie's more than fat jokes and farts. Like this movie's actually smart, and you can tell that this movie was these filmmakers put a lot of craft into their work. I mean, and you watch them, I was like, no wonder it took 5 years to make this one. And and you're scared because they put it in January, but no, man, it's really great. I think they moved it because of Star Wars, to be honest with you.
Probably a good move, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I also caught up on an old movie. Old. I mean, I'm just behind on everyone else who saw it in the movies. Creed. I finally got around to seeing Creed.
Well, Benny, what do you think about the movie? What do you think about the movie, Benny? Did you like it?
Yeah, I think it was good. I was like... Maybe because it's been so hyped, when I got to like halfway through it, I was like...
Absolutely.
I'm not sure why everyone's saying it's so great, but it picks up. It's solid.
Okay.
I don't think it's as good as everyone makes it out to be. I think maybe it's just because people expected nothing from it, and it actually came out pretty good.
People went in... it's weird because I went in... Sorry, I'm going to let you talk. I talked a lot. I'll let you
No,
speak.
that's all right. You go ahead. I don't have that much to say about it. So.
Well, thank you. It's just that... When we first heard of the thought of a Creed film, everyone was just like, all right. And then we heard Fruitvale Station, and we're like, okay, all right, I'm down. And then we saw the trailer, and we were just like, oh, hey, that looks all right. And then we went in, and I still think it's incredible. Just because, and like you said, because we weren't expecting incredible going into it, which is why I'm scared that I overhyped Kung Fu Panda 3 for you. Because I went in thinking it was going to be crap, which I don't know why, because the trailers are always crap. But, seeing this...
That was Spectre for me. I was expecting so low. When it slightly exceeded it, I was like, oh, it's not that bad.
And I was still disappointed. Maybe because that opening scene's so great,
Craig,
but after that...
Potato Head.
Huh? What'd you say?
Never mind. I was trying to make a joke, but don't worry about it.
All right. Good attempt. All right, so give me your thoughts on Creed. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I really liked it. It's... it's basically the same as the other movies, but I mean, it's fine though, because I mean,
it sucks, it's not good because it's just like the first Rocky, so it sucks.
It's a boxing movie. How many different ways can you do a boxing movie? Ways
can you do a space opera?
Lots of different ways you could do Star Wars. I'm just saying.
No, there's not. I'll tell you what.
I'll
tell you what. I was going. I was being a nerd. I was writing my own Star Wars movie for a second there.
Yeah.
That today, and I presented an idea to Christian. He said, "So it's Jedis with lightsabers on a desert planet," and I said, "Mother trucker, it's Attack of the Clones." It's not as. Tell you, what am I saying? You've written a Star Wars movie. No, never mind. Moving on.
Well, the rule is I can't bag out Force Awakens. You can't bag out Terminator Genesis. But a video I am working on now, I'm talking about, is Force Awakens really a remake of A New Hope?
I'm working on the exact same video.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually because I went through to I found copyright law and plagiarism for law about that, and there's a certain criteria, like if two musicians sue each other saying one ripped off the other one's song, there's a certain criteria they go through to find out whether the song indeed does copy another one. So I did the same thing with Force Awakens and A New Hope, and it's not looking good. Just warning you in advance.
Lucas did sell the rights off.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm saying that if he did try to sue them for plagiarism, he would probably win. Because
it's Disney. Disney.
I mean, he wouldn't win because he sold the rights, but if he hadn't,
it's Disney.
He sued them, he would definitely.
You can't sue the mouse. You can't sue the mouse.
I actually because I went through A New Hope, because one of it is composition. You have to compare composition and music. So I went through and watched A New Hope, and I wrote down each event in order that it happens, and then I watched Force Awakens again. And I did the exact same thing and compared them, and it's so similar.
Do you have the list?
It's even more similar than you think. And
do you have the list with you?
Yeah, I'll send you a picture, but I'm gonna show it in the video. It's not just events, but also the order that they happen in is almost exactly the same.
Oh yeah. Oh well, yeah. That's why. Well, duh.
Yeah, I think the only things that A New Hope does that Force Awakens doesn't do is you don't have a bit where the sub-villain refuses to leave the Death Star, Tarkin refuses to leave. You don't have a bit where Hux is like, I'm not leaving the Starkiller base. You don't have that, and I can't remember the others. There's 2 others. Oh, Luke's parents dying. That doesn't happen to Rey.
Nope.
But yeah, there's pretty much...
Also, the difference, and also Rey and Luke have different motivations in their character. Luke is a pampered farm boy that wants to get off the planet and fight in the war.
I'm also
Rey
going to
is
do one on Rey being a Mary Sue as well. Just saying. I'm going to release the 2 of them together. Yeah.
I've written my first draft of my English paper, and like half of it is just defending.
Yeah.
Okay, no, but it's like, and also.
Can I just ask you one thing though? Because when I was getting ready to do the Rey Mary Sue one as well, I realized something. Rey, they say, oh, she could do everything. She can even understand Chewie's language. Because you remember when they're hiding in the thing, she opens it and he roars and she's like, no, I am the pilot. Because you can understand that thing. And then Han says, and it can understand you too.
Luke understood Chewie.
How does she know how to speak Wookiee? She grew
how
up
does
on
Luke
a
know how to
desert
speak
planet.
Wookiee?
There's no Wookiees out there.
How does Luke know how to speak Wookiee?
What, did she learn it from a book? It's growling. You can't learn growling from a book.
How did Luke learn Wookiee? Luke understands Chewie just fine in A New Hope. Everyone understands Chewie, man.
He doesn't
Don't worry about
understand
it.
Chewie.
Luke understands Chewie.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does in A New Hope. Yes, he does.
When?
They're talking. What do you mean? What do you mean when? They're all conversing.
He never has a conversation with Chewie. Han always translates. Han understands what he's saying. Lando understands what he's saying. C-3PO understands what he's saying. No one else does. Anyway. Point is, she's got all these amazing skills that she probably shouldn't have because she's a scavenger. Like, why is she even a pilot? Anyway.
Maybe there was a Wookiee on Jakku.
There wouldn't be. They live on Kashyyyk and they're covered in fur. Animals covered in fur would not live on a desert. Why would
Not
they?
all of them live on Kashyyyk, clearly.
Yes, they do. The only one that would hang out in a junkyard where she lives is Chewie, because he's literally the only Wookiee that knows how to fix anything. The rest of them barely even use technology.
Maybe she met him when she was little.
No, she didn't.
How do you know?
They never mention it in the movie. You can't write in fan fiction to fill in plot holes.
In fan fiction to fill in plot holes. I'm just presenting an unanswered question. Unanswered questions are not plot holes.
I think it is, yeah. Well, a Mary Sue, the definition of a Mary Sue is they have unrealistic abilities. Like, is it impossible that she could learn Wookiee? No, it's not impossible, but it's certainly unrealistic.
The whole movie's unrealistic.
Yeah,
Lightsabers don't exist.
Every
You
film
burn your
has to
hand off.
exist in its own universe with its own rules.
Yeah.
The problem with the Mary Sue is not that they're good at stuff. It's that it's lazy writing. Because instead of actually giving a reason as to why they can do what they do, no, they're just great.
Tell you what. I want to put this thing to bed quickly.
Well, it's like I'm going to say.
Hold on. I'm ending this now. Let's end this now.
Okay, I'll just say one last thing.
No.
It's a little bit like if you got Batman, exactly the same Batman, but you change it where that he's not a billionaire. Okay, his parents weren't rich, they were just regular people. He's not a billionaire, yet somehow he still seems to have all the gadgets. How does he have them? I don't know. He just does. That's a Mary
completely
Sue.
different.
That's a
that
Mary
is
Sue.
complete. That's bad.
See, Batman has a backstory as to why he has his abilities. Why all that. If you rewrote Batman, but his parents weren't billionaires, he never traveled around the world, he never did any training, yet he's still the same Batman, he's a Mary Sue then. She's like that. She's a scavenger.
I hate this because I know you've written your script and you sat down and you have time and you've researched this and whatnot. I feel like that Batman thing's gonna be in your video too. You slimy little worm.
It is. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like that's why because
and she
so
fixes
I'm always
the hyperdrive. How does she know how to fix a hyperdrive? She's a scavenger. She gets stuff, she cleans it, and she sells it. She doesn't build anything.
We don't know that.
The only ability she has is what Sean Penn's fat guy taught her, and he wouldn't teach her how to build a hyperdrive.
It's Simon Pegg.
Whatever.
Sean Penn is not in The Force Awakens.
He could
Sean
be.
Penn's going out with El Chapo.
That could have been Sean Penn inside that suit. You don't know.
I doubt it. He would have gotten out and done some action from what I hear. Sean Penn.
Then he would have died because he dies in every movie, doesn't he?
Sean Penn. No, that's Sean Bean. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, that's right. Sean Penn's the other guy. Yeah.
Oh my god. Sean Penn is like I Am Sam Milk. Oh my god. All right, let's move on here before.
Hey, look, all their names start by Sean. That's confusing.
Simon is not Sean, Bandit. Simon Pegg.
Yeah, but two of them are Sean. The other one starts with an S. Hey, that's confusing enough.
But neither of them are the Force Awakens. How do you get them confused?
One of them is.
Sean Bean and Sean Penn are not in the Force Awakens. I said neither of them.
Who's the guy in the suit again?
Simon.
The guy who plays
Bandit,
Scotty, which is another name that starts with S. See, I get confused.
Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. Bandit. Oh my god. I feel like
so the only abilities Ray has is what that guy.
We're moving past this. We're moving past this because
all right. So getting back to Creed.
Come back to me in episode 9 and see if this all makes sense to you. All right? I'll see you later.
The movie needs to be judged on its own merits. You know, if you go back
Why
and fix it in
didn't
the next
Yoda go
movie,
out? Why didn't Yoda go out?
better.
Why didn't Yoda go out and fight against Vader and the Empire? Why didn't Yoda go back out and fight?
Because he was old and about ready to die.
But if he was powerful enough to lift this X-wing out of the swamp and do all that, why couldn't he do it? That's a plot hole.
Yeah, but he's not strong enough to take on the Emperor.
You don't know that. We didn't see it. That's a plot hole.
Come on, he's an old guy. He walks around on a cane.
Yeah, but he's still powerful.
Died
We
in
saw
his
it on
sleep.
screen. We saw it on screen. He's still powerful. We see the Emperor's just as powerful. He's able to use lightning and whatnot. Why can't he fight him?
You're right. You're right. Star Wars is terrible. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
You've convinced me. I hate Star Wars now.
Have you seen Chris Stuckman's reviews of the Force Awakens, his spoilers and non-spoiler review?
Yep. You mean the one where he's countering the things?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Man, you guys are just relentless, huh? Man, it's really sad. It's really upsetting.
No, I understand what he's saying. There's a certain formula that you got to follow for Star Wars, but there's a difference between that and literally plagiarizing like 89% of the script. That's what I think. It's not the same thing. It's different.
And I said the first thing I said in this movie, and I was like, that's exactly the way this movie needed to be. This movie needed to be, this movie needed to have a New Hope within its skeleton, because you needed to have. But we've been over this, and you don't buy it. You don't buy that argument for a second. So go back to Creed.
So Creed. Yeah, I really liked Creed because this is how we got into this conversation, because I was like, how many different ways can you do a boxing movie? So that's how we diverted off to Star Wars again. All right, but I really like Stallone in this. I think he's really good. See, like I liked the kind of Rocky that we got in this, because the last Rocky movie I also liked that, but that's where he's like, I've still got one more fight left in me, and that was fine. But I kind of like this Rocky where he's just sort of like, he feels like he doesn't have anything left to prove. He's just kind of relaxed and calm and all that. And I like that Rocky. And I like seeing Stallone playing a bit more realistic of his age.
Yes,
rather than
nice.
like Expendables where like, I've still got it. No, you haven't. Okay, so
no.
Just do this, Stallone. Just take roles that fit your age. You don't need to
I feel like Rocky in this movie is how Stallone feels when he wakes up in the morning.
Yeah.
Like he'll wake up and he's just like, oh, I'm old. And then like he'll go out and go to the gym and be like, all right, let's go shoot the Expendables.
That's right. Yeah, totally. But no, I really liked it and thought Stallone was really good. So, like I said, I don't really have that much to say about it.
Well, I'm sorry that the movie couldn't hit you in the way it hit a lot of other people. I'm sorry you had to see it later in your life. I'm surprised you didn't, do what you usually do with movies. I'm sure it's out there.
Steve Jobs still isn't out here in Australia, by the way.
Yeah. Oh well.
Still,
it probably won't ever be.
Yeah, so, probably will never come out of this, right?
No, it probably never really. The movie bombed at the box office, which sucks.
Yeah.
But so did Fight Club. So
and I'm sorry, Steve Jobs, that you bombed, but try releasing a movie at the same time, like in different countries.
I really don't think that's the movie's fault.
No,
that's Sony being Sony. Oh no, it's Universal. It's just it's
their fault. It's not the movie's fault. No,
it's a weird thing. It's like if movies released for a certain reason, whatever. Okay, were those your thoughts on Creed?
Those are my thoughts. So
okay,
there's only one homework assignment left that you got, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a film that I've seen and I think if you've seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I sat down and watched The Hateful Eight.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say this right now. Spoilers. Because apparently
below to jump again.
Yeah, apparently people didn't like the fact that we spoiled Force Awakens like right after we said, like, we were like, so spoilers, right? So Han died. People didn't like that, so
Yeah,
I'm
you
just
said
gonna...
it too quickly. You didn't give him
whatever.
time
I mean, come on, guys. Like, come on. I'm sorry, but all right.
I should have
like, the movie was
a
out.
bigger pause.
All right, fine. Well, spoilers. Skip. Goodbye. Leave. We don't want you here. I'm kidding. Come back. Hi. Did you see the movie? Great. Hateful Eight is amazing. I really enjoyed this movie. The more I think about it, the more happy I get about it because, and it really, my first impression, like when it was going, I'm like, I'm not liking this movie. I was not really into it, but the movie takes a turn. This movie takes a turn for really just the hateful. I didn't like. Everyone just becomes so upset and despicable. By the time this movie's over, you're just like, man, you all suck. Like, literally, no pun intended. But it's like, man, you all suck. And all right, so let's get to the main controversy of the film. Because I've listened to reviews about it, and people have said, people were like, did they have to go that far? Did they have to do what they did? And for those of you that maybe don't care about spoilers and don't know what happened, the plot of the film is that if you haven't seen the trailer, this bounty hunter played by Kurt Russell, the Hangman, is trying to escort this girl. I think her name is Domergue or whatever. Daisy Domergue. That's a great name. Daisy Domergue. She's sentenced to hang in a town nearby because she wants to because she's done some crimes, whatever. And so on the way to Red Rock, which is a town, they run across Samuel L. Jackson's bounty hunter, who's also escorting bodies.
Yeah, who was supposed to be Django.
Yeah.
Yeah, until they changed it. Yeah. No. You could see why they changed it, right?
And I can... And they join forces and they make a deal like, if you help me, I help you, and this will all work out in the end. And they arrive at this little cabin, this little haberdashery, and they arrive at and they all go in there. In which case, while they're in there, they run across a bunch of cast of characters, including the future sheriff of a city or of the town they're going into, and the Civil War general for the South, and just a bunch of crazy cast of characters. Yes, I do declare.
It's like Cluedo.
Oh yeah, it's like Clue
like
meets like Reservoir Dogs. Like there's a point where I'm just like, oh, he went full. Does Quentin Tarantino narrate after the kind of the halfway
that's
mark?
his voice. Yeah,
I figure I'm like that sounds really like Pulp Fiction, Quentin.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like using the N-word in
I'll
my
tell you
life.
Someone who loves using the N-word.
Quentin Tarantino. Some people have problems with that. I don't, because I'm like, A, it's the world he lives in, and B, I feel like if Sam Jackson can give you a pass for using the N-word, then you have a pass for life. I don't know, it's just me. Like have you heard the quote that he said to Leonardo DiCaprio whenever Leo said, I'm uncomfortable using that word? He said, Mother Trucker, this is just another Tuesday for us. So I'm like, all right, so I'm cool with it.
What did Leo say?
Leo said he wasn't cool with using the N-word in Django.
Right,
yeah. And Tim Jackson's like, it's just another Tuesday. And so, yeah, it's like, so...
I'm okay with them using it if, this movie set in the time when people would use it, so use it. It's like, you can't not use the M-word in 12 Years a Slave or something,
I'm not okay with Pulp Fiction, Tarantino using it, I think that's just kind of his character, but when I don't like using the N-word, and I apologize for being crass in the podcast, but when the best line of the movie is, yes, I do declare we have a nigga. That's the best line of the movie. It's so great.
What's that? I don't remember that bit.
I think it's Walton Goggins when they get in the cabin, and he's talking about how he's a bounty hunter. I think he says that towards Kurt Russell's character, the Hangman. Walton Goggins, he plays the sheriff. He's my favorite part of the movie. He is so great. Like this...
I gotta say, just before we move on from the M-word...
Yeah.
After I watched that, when I was talking to some of my friends about it, because they use the N-word so much, it works its way into your
70
subconscious.
70 times.
The amount of times, and I had to, constantly hold myself back from saying it, just because it's been drilled into my head through this time. So I'm like, damn you, Quentin Tarantino.
It's okay. Let your inner Australian racism cop out. It's all right. It's all right. Like I come out, you get cut off by a black guy in the road, and you almost just drop the word, and you're just like, "Sorry, that's my ancestors. I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
But you know who I really like though? I thought the funniest character was the guy who you're not sure whether he's the sheriff or not.
Yeah, that's Walton Goggins. That's that
Oh,
guy.
that guy was so funny. Like, I love the bit when he gets on the carriage and Samuel L. Jackson like puts a gun on his head. He's like, if you want to talk that hateful talk, you can ride up top with old B. And he's like, no.
He's
Just the way he says
and I
it.
think that's what I like about his character, because his character, he's so despicable, but at the same time, he's just, and really, with all these guys, they're all just survivors. In a sense, they're all survivors. You know, some are more sheepish than others, but they're all survivors. And with Walton Goggins' character, with the sheriff, you know, he's trying to get to a certain goal, and he doesn't like certain people, but he doesn't want to get shot in the face.
Yeah.
So if his situation allows him to be friends with a black man, that's what he's going to have to do. And it's nice to see the progression of his character as the film goes along.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
keep going.
I did find, like, because I watched that a couple of times, legally, of course. And, but yeah, I noticed, like, when he gets in the carriage, before he starts talking about, like, Samuel L. Jackson burning the camp down and all that, he's like, you know, I better have the two of you for a meal to show my gratitude. So, like, he's still apparently, like, okay with Samuel L. Jackson, sort of, I guess, in his own kind of way. But then, you know, he starts like, does he know how famous you are? And he goes on about it. But yeah. But I agree with you. Like, when I started watching it, for like the first half hour or so, you know, they're talking and talking and talking. And I'm like, is there any point to this? Is this just like stuff in Pulp Fiction where they just talk and it's not really...
But that's all Pulp Fiction is.
Yeah.
Until like the Bruce Willis storyline. It's just them talking.
But see, in this, it seems like that they're just talking, but it all does connect up later. Because like, he's having that thing about Samuel L. Jackson that, you know, they thought you're just like a kill crazy N-word who just wants to kill crackers. You know, so then later on when he tells that story about what he did to the general's son, I'll get
to that later. We'll get to that later.
Sure. Anyway, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's just that I think I didn't feel that the dialogue was very Tarantino-y for the first maybe half hour to 45 minutes. I don't know, I think just because, like, with a film like Pulp Fiction or Django or Inglourious Bastards, the dialogue all serves to develop the characters. And for a while, I didn't feel like we were seeing any development. I felt like we were just watching stuff happen. And I wasn't really into what was happening on screen. It really isn't until we get until like nightfall hits in the cabin is when we start to get into what this film is all about, what we're trying to do here. Really, the weak link for me of the whole film was Jennifer Jason Leigh as Daisy. She really seems. I thought I didn't buy anything she was throwing out at me.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch a second time, but like the whole time, just like wow. In a film where literally everyone's hamming it up, and to the point to where I felt like Tim Roth was going to have a monocle appear on his face mid shot.
I love that too. Yeah.
Oh, he was great. Like he was.
I loved the way his accent changed. That like when it goes back to the chapter where you see him coming out, he's just talking like your typical kind of British guy. But then when he puts on the fake persona, he's like, "Well, the bar shall serve as Philadelphia," because this is the way that Americans think that British people talk. So he's like acting out the whole role.
Frontier justice. This is frontier justice. Yes, he talks like Emma Thompson in every movie ever. You know, it's like I think Jennifer Jason Leigh, you know, especially even towards the end when it's revealed what she's all going on about, when she's a part of the gang or whatever, and she's trying to convince Walton Goggins to shoot Sam Jackson. I'm just like, I'm not into like every time she spoke, I was pulled out of the movie, which sucks because everything around her was so great. I really don't know why. I think I read an interview right before a long time ago, like with Katie Sackhoff, and that Quentin Tarantino came to her and said, we want to read for this part, and she read for it, and Quentin said she got it. And then she met with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I'm like, man, I would have loved to see what Katie Sackhoff could have done with this role. I think this would have been a great role for her. Especially, like, you know, Quentin said that he wanted someone kind of older for the role of Daisy. I'm like, I don't see why, after seeing the way the film plays out. I definitely see that. I think Katie Sackhoff would have been great, especially knowing what Channing Tatum and her connection is. I don't know. She didn't work for me.
Yeah. I remember because, like, when I talked about it a couple of weeks back, you were like, is Channing Tatum wasted? And I'm like, he literally does get wasted.
Yeah.
He gets his head blown off.
I thought he was gonna get his head blown off whenever he's talking to all his guys, and he's just like, "All right, guys, we're gonna do." I thought they were all gonna pull out their guns and pop his head off.
Yeah.
I really thought what was going to happen.
I didn't get why they left the old man alive though. Like, I know the reason they give is it makes the setup more convincing, which I guess
that's what I was gonna say. That's the line they gave. They're like, "Oh, it makes the room." I think it just seems less suspicious.
Yeah,
because the old man looks like he's been in there. It looks like he's been in there for a while. You know, everyone kind of looks like they just got there. But
I like how he connected up all the little details of like,
yes,
you know, that they have to nail the door shut and then
yes,
and all these little
that
things.
Door. And I like how eventually the characters are just like, just hold the door wall until they get back. Christ. I love how, like, by the third time they have to nail those boards on, like everyone's like, you gotta do the door, you gotta nail the door, It's wonderful.
And I'll open if you don't, shut up, from Kurt Russell.
I love, what was
how
his
great
name?
was Kurt Russell?
Oh, Kurt Russell.
He is
great.
so good. I love Kurt Russell in this movie.
Also, I must give the movie credit for having a vomit scene that grossed me out, but at the same time had me really entertained by it, because it's so rare for me to see a vomit scene in a movie and not just be like, that's disgusting, you're the worst kind of person. For me, I saw this and I'm like, that's disgusting, but it works, because this is the first time ever I've seen a movie where someone vomits into someone else's mouth, and it works so well, because usually in a movie, like, someone will vomit into someone's mouth and they'll be like, ew, you're so disgusting, gross, in which case the audience is like, oh my god, that's horrifyingly disgusting. But the way Daisy plays it off, that's like maybe the one thing I like about the Jennifer Jason Leigh performance. The way she plays it off, it's just like, she's losing her mind. She's like, yeah, blood, you're dying.
And if that's not enough, she gets brain splattered on her face from her brother, but that freaks her out.
But I didn't buy that either. I thought Channing Tatum was great, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought he did Charming perfectly well. Like, watching this, I'm just like, he's got Gambit down. If he can get that French accent, he's got Gambit down. Yeah. Because the way he's charming up I forgot the May, not May, the name, the girl that owned the haberdashery, I forgot her name, but the way she's charming up her and everybody, I was like, I knew something was going to go bad. I'm like, I knew for a fact that they died, but he pulled.
They sure did. Poor old Sweet Dave, he got massacred.
Oh, yeah.
That bit where he gets stabbed in the back. It was like, oh man, so brutal, but also so awesome.
Speaking of poor old Sweet Dave,
Ask me if my ass is fat. What? We.
I feel like this was like when Channing Tatum being like, yes, yeah, I can do Gambit. We.
But he's a good actor though, Channing Tatum, because just in that little scene he had, like, I noticed that like he's speaking French to her, but then with the Mexican guy he's speaking Spanish. So I thought, oh, that's an interesting touch to the character, that he's obviously smarter than others because he speaks different languages. And
I think that's why he's the leader of the gang. It's not because he's the biggest guy. It's not because he's the brute. It's because he clearly has the brains of everybody, because he's clearly the only one. It's clear he's clearly the one that's like not insane in the group. Like, Tim Roth is just like this crazy British. I feel like the ancestor of Ringo in Pulp Fiction is Tim Roth's character in this movie.
Well, they're all connected, all Quentin's movies. So
yeah, I'm happy. I'm hoping to see how this connects into his other films.
So what were you going to say before about Samuel L. Jackson?
Well, we're gonna lead into
We're leading
into it. He, I like when he figures out that things aren't right. The moment that the hangman dies, which I was actually really upset to see him go. I knew from the moment that the door closed and all 8 of them, I'm like, no one's getting out of this alive. No one's getting off this mountain alive, and if they are, they're going to get shot on their way down.
I thought Samuel would.
No,
he seemed to be on top of everything right from the beginning, so I thought he's probably going to be the only one who walks out.
I thought he was going to go the way Kurt Russell did. I thought he was going to be the one to be taken out, because I thought he's kind of our eyes and ears into this world. He's kind of the first main character that we meet. He's kind of the person we see kind of the events through for a while at least, and kind of especially towards the end. So I figured he was going to go out the way that Kurt Russell out. He was going to get got in the end and maybe shoot the villain last minute or whatever. But no, they went completely different with it. But when he figures out that things aren't right, when he figures out that they killed old Sweet Dave and whatever the girl's name was, when he figures things out, he's just like, and he's pulling back the rags on the chair, and you see the blood, and he's just like, and poor old Sweet Dave. And then when he talks about how the sign said no dogs and no Mexicans, and he's like, and she took that sign down. Do you know why? Because she let in dogs. And I was just like, oh, he's got him.
Yeah.
And then,
say adios to your Cuervos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you're just like, what? But before that, so he sits down and talks to the Civil War general.
Mm-hmm.
And then he stands up and tells a story of how he met the Civil War general's boy.
Yep.
And
which
did.
By the way, sorry, I won't interrupt for very long, but which, by the way, is also set up with some of that seemingly unimportant conversation earlier, where they talk about the bounty on Samuel L. Jackson's head, and that people who came looking for it never came back. So it's set up that, yeah.
Yeah, and talk about how he never knew how his boy died, how he just kind of came up here, and you never knew why he went up here, we never knew why he died, and we know why
he does say to the sheriff guy, the sheriff's like, are you sure he's gone? And he's like, oh, if he did what he came out here to do, he would have come back. So he must have known he was coming up here to collect a bounty or something. Yeah,
and so it's what he does to the Civil War general's boy. And so he tells a story. He says, I met, all these guys come up to kill me, and your boy was like, oh, let's just walk down the mountain, forget any of this happened. And then I think his boy told him that he was the general's son, and he says that's the moment he knew he wasn't going to let him go. And so he stripped him down, he made him strip himself in the middle of the snow, and walk out for like 2 hours, just keep walking in the cold. And then he makes him blow him. And, yeah, and
which I'm not sure whether that part's true or whether he was just trying to bait him to get the gun. But either way, it was pretty funny to have Samuel L. Jackson going like that.
Well, we see it happen.
Yeah.
Like he did to his boy what Zed was going to do to Marcellus Wallace, what Zed did to Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction.
So that's why a bit later, after the poisoning, and Samuel L. Jackson said to all of them, "All of you, turn around and put your hands on that wall." I was like, "Oh boy, what's going to happen?"
Really,
now?
you got nervous? No,
I thought, is this going to be like a bit of deliverance going on here? I don't know.
Oh boy, Bandit! Oh boy, 50 Shades of Jackson.
Well, I wasn't sure because I was like, I don't know whether he actually did that or whether he was just making it up to get him to go.
I definitely think he did that. I don't think he just killed him.
But could you imagine if that was Django, though? Wouldn't that mess with your head? Would be like, what happened to you, Django?
I think that would have been a really cool story point.
Yeah.
I don't think the character would have worked because he knows how it feels to have another man grab your genitals and almost cut them off, because that almost happens in Django.
Yeah.
He almost gets his balls cut off. So I know how I don't think if that was Django he would have done that.
And then he does get shot. If that was Samuel Jackson, he does get shot.
Yeah. and I think right after Jackson tells that story, that's when I said, oh man, so no one's getting off this mountain alive because everyone here is besides Kurt Russell. And I said, so if anyone's getting off, it's going to be Kurt Russell, but no, they're going to kill him off. And then
even Kurt Russell's a bit of a sadist, though, isn't he? He's like, I want to hear our neck snap with my own.
I think he gets pleasure in the harming of criminals. Yeah. I think he gets Batman. He gets he wouldn't not death, but he gets pleasure in the criminals got what they deserved. Yeah. But it's like, man, like what Sam Jackson did, I remember I had no idea what was going to happen. So I remember I watched it and I chapped it because again, movies out of theaters, rated R and all that. And so I'm sitting in my bed and
Mania,
I'm watching.
Sponsored by Pirate Bay.
Oh, there you go. We're pulled from iTunes again. No, and so we're watching it and I'm watching it and it's happening. He tells the story and I'm just like, no, oh my god! I'm just sitting there like, oh, they're showing it. Oh, what? And then they just I imagine like being in the theater when the overture happens, because if you see it in 70mm, that scene happens and then the movie cuts off and there's an overture, and or not an overture, maybe there's an intermission or whatever, and I can't imagine being in that theater, sitting there and watching it, and then having that scene happen, having him shoot the general, and the movie cut to black, intermission. I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, I gotta hit play. I couldn't do that because. And then right after that, he's just like, and someone went and poisoned the coffee. I said, oh my God, this movie has me. I'm in. Let's keep going. Let's go. And from that point on, it's just, it's beautiful. It is what I want from a Quentin Tarantino movie. And it's, oh man, sorry. Okay. You go.
Well, I did. It's funny because it's like once they get to the cabin, it's like that game of Cluedo. And so I was thinking to myself, if I was Kurt Russell, like, well, there's a bit where Samuel L. Jackson is out in the stables with Senior Bob, and Kurt Russell's in there, and he's kind of knows something weird is going on, and then when Samuel L. Jackson comes in, he's like, yeah, something weird's happening. I thought, what I would have done, I'd be like, well, whoever they are, they're here to capture her alive. So I just turn around and shoot her in the head and remove the reason they have for being here. So, like, if I was Kurt Russell, that's what I would have done. As soon as I knew someone was there, but I didn't know who it was, I'd just go, sorry, boom, done.
If I'm Kurt Russell, I get my handcuffs. Since I have 4 pairs, I put them on everybody in the room, and I end that, and I make them sit in the corner, and I put them in, I'll Sam Jackson style on the wall. I make them all Blair Witch in the corner, and then I sit there and I wait out the storm for 2 days, and it's all over.
We know someone needs to go to the outhouse.
Well, we dig a hole. We're not gonna take him out. We're not gonna take him outside. That's a great scene. Whenever old B gets back inside, and he's like, "Mother trucker, hey, go sit me out there again. I'll tell you what." He just grabs a fur off the wall and just lays it. He's like, "Oh, that's nice." Oh, that's like, it's just a great break in tension. Like, everyone's like really intense, and then Obi just comes through, just freaking out because he made them go outside and dump the guns. Yeah,
but it was good, and there's that twist at the end where there's the racist sheriff guy, and you think he's going to take the deal, but then he's just like, nah.
He's like, no deal. I think it's because he knew he was going to die. I think that's the thing. I think he knew, he's like, I've been shot in the stomach or whatever. I'm not getting out of here alive. I think what was really great is when Sam Jackson when he ran out of bullets trying to shoot Daisy, and he ran out of bullets. When the gun went click, I said, "Oh God!" And then Sam Jackson, he's like, "Oh man!" Like, he has a look of like, "Oh, I'm dead." But how great was it when Daisy tried to reach for the gun and like her brain, like, she gets her chest blown back because, and like the sheriff, I was like, yes. Oh man, it's kind of funny watching Daisy like hack the hangman's arm off and like try to like drag herself over there, and then just to like, and you think like, oh no, Goggins is dead, he passed out, but like it's awesome. What
about the whole Lincoln letter thing? Did you like that?
I really did. I thought it brought a whole new layer to this character because he really is he's a devious SOB, isn't he? Like, he really, and understandably so. And I think because of where the movie is set and the kind of thing that he went through, being a slave, because didn't he say he was born and raised on a plantation? Yeah. So being a slave would do that to you. Yeah. I think because I know so much about how, Yeah,
Django would do that.
Django would do the Lincoln letter. I'll give you that. He would do the Lincoln letter.
He'd fight for the Union. He'd probably go back to bounty hunting after the war. He'd know to get a Lincoln letter. Yeah.
So here's my thing. So Sam Jackson wrote the letter himself. That's the whole revelation of the movie. Yeah, like I think that's a great character thing because knowing what he's willing to do, being a slave clearly messed him up in the head. Being a slave clearly gave him some kind of psychological problem, so that whenever Walton Goggins is talking to him, he's just like, you're just out there killing crackers or whatever. That might actually be the kind of person that he is. He might just be out there hunting white people. Maybe some of them happen to be criminals or whatever, but he's just out there hunting white people. And I can't be upset at him for doing that because he spent a good chunk of his life being a slave. And like, how long is this after the Civil War? Like, what, 5 years maybe? A couple of years?
Actually, I think it was 7 years after the end of the war.
Yeah, so it's like, it's still fresh in his brain. Like, he still probably has scars from everything he went through. So, granted, I would never force a man to blow me after making him walk in the cold for 2 hours, but, I don't put it past him and granted, I probably wouldn't do it even if he was the son. Like, if it was the general, maybe I'd be more okay with it, but, like, come on, man. It's a great revelation, and it's a great turn for that character, but come on, Clinton. That's pretty dark, man.
Yeah, I mean, Quentin, you should know if you're going to do that, you should punch all the guy's teeth out first, just to be safe. I'm just saying.
Where did I hear that from? He curb stomped like Ed Norton American History X. He curb stomps him.
That's a brutal movie too. That one. Yeah.
Oh, you're telling me that ending gets me every time.
Yeah.
It's just. I think that the character of Sam Jackson makes sense, especially with what he went through. So I give him the benefit. I let it pass for what he did. Yeah.
Do you agree with me though that like it's certainly good work from Quentin, but do you agree with me that it's sort of like you can see a little bit of Quentin's pretentiousness coming through in like some of the writing and some of the dialogue and stuff? Do you think so?
I think the film gets a little too ambitious at the beginning. The movie starts off just a tad bit too ambitious. I think Quentin is so in love with his writing that he thinks it can carry 3 hours. And it can if he uses it properly. Like, how long is Pulp Fiction? Like 2 hours, 40 minutes? It's long. But the reason Pulp Fiction works is because it's told out of order, and we get introduced to different characters. We have different locations. We have different kind of styles being told. You have the scene with like they're trying to get her heart to start again. It's wonderful. But with this one, you're told you have 2 main characters for the first half and 4 main characters for the second half, but it all takes place in the same room, and so it doesn't hold for as long as he thinks it does. When he gets going and when it gets to that Tarantino-esque violence that I love so much, that's when I think the film works best. That's when I think the film is at its most brutal. It's at the most fun to watch because you now have justified all this violence from the last 40 minutes of dialogue. But that first, how do I put this? The first quarter of the film is really hard to get through. And I'm not sure I can get through that one again.
I agree.
But it's once we see how the characters are interacting. It's once we understand that things are not right is when the film really starts to get going. But there are some good lines in the first 40 minutes. He's like, no one said this job had to be easy, and Sam Jackson's like, no one said it had to be that hard neither. That's a great line. Like I said, the N-word line is my favorite line of the movie, just because it's so joyful, and he's like, yes, I do declare. Like it's such a great line.
I like the bit, in the stable has a letter from Abraham Lincoln.
A letter from Abraham Lincoln.
I'm Oswaldo Mowbray.
It's like, and like, especially once you realize, it's all a bit, it makes that so much better. Because at first I was just like, oh, he's just having fun. Tim Roth is just having the time of his life. But no. It's meant for a reason. And I think that's where Tarantino succeeds most, is where the revelations come in. It's when he's able to build up. I think that's a person who can write good dialogue, a person who can write a good movie, works best when they're working towards a reveal. That's what makes something like Steve Jobs works well, because it's all revealing. It's kind of like, with Steve Jobs, you're building to kind of this kind of climactic final 2 minutes of dialogue. You're building to what is the revelation of this whole conversation. With Hateful Eight, you're building to that second act. You're building to that intermission moment. You're building to the holy crap, this just got real moment. And that's when Tarantino succeeds. But it's everything that before. It's all the character stuff that he tries to do that just really fails for me. But I still really, really love this movie, because that last 90 minutes or so is, oh, it's so great.
And there's good stuff too, like, because like when you go back and watch it, especially once you know like who everyone is, it's interesting to watch, like when Kurt Russell first comes through the door with what's her name, and they nailed the door shut. And when Oswaldo Mowbray starts talking, it's funny because you can see she's kind of smiling at him.
Yeah.
There's these little bits because like she's laughing that I'm Oswaldo Mowbray, and she's laughing like, oh my God, you're really in this character. And then later on when he's like, wouldn't it be easier transporting her if she were dead? And she gives him this look like, did you really just say that? And when they come in, like, and she sees he's there, she's immediately like, the sheriff's traveling with us, and there's, you know, his N-word friend in the barn. So he's like, she's immediately letting them know there's other people there. So
that's true. When I first thought, I'm like, why would she do? What's the point of that?
Yeah,
and then
why
you
would she say
understand,
that?
like,
But yeah, it's because she knows.
yeah, then you understand exactly. I do. So my question. So Channing Tatum is underneath that floor the whole time. He's underneath that floor from the moment they get in the door, right? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because what's his name? The Mexican was the one that poured the poison in the coffee.
The cowboy guy.
Oh yeah,
The Mexican was
Michael
playing the
Madsen.
piano. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I really had no idea it was all four of them. I really thought it was just the cowboy. I really thought it was just Michael Madsen working for her.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be the hangman. I mean, the actual hangman, not Kurt Russell. Yeah, I thought he'd be innocent.
I honestly thought he was just a clueless British man. I really did think, up until the moment where he pulled out his gun, I said, "Oh my god, wait, what?" And then Michael Madsen was like, "I have no gun." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so he wasn't a part of it." No. They were all a part of it. That's when I was just like, "Oh my god, it's all so, oh man, Tarantino. Good job, good on you." I think he should have gotten the nomination for writing.
Yeah.
I think that he did really. I think Sam Jackson should have gotten something for acting. I think, you know, best actor should have gotten to Sam Jackson nomination.
Yeah.
I think he's great. I
like the bit where he's on the bed after getting shot, and like,
yeah,
whenever he laughs, he's like, ha, ha, because he's got nothing left down there. He's just like, ha,
yeah.
oh.
It's just like mush and nerves. Like, the pain's still there. That's the problem, because you've been getting punched in your balls hurts. Getting like a basketball to your balls hurts. Getting a bullet to the balls. Oh my god,
it's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you think you just don't have any feeling down there anymore. No. And like what was the line? He's just like he's like, I can't feel my ass no more. Like that's a great line.
Well, we should probably get onto our feature presentation. It's been an hour and a half.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, let's. But Hateful Eight, it's wonderful.
For much more than half an hour about the Revenant. So
yeah, I gave Hateful Eight. I will go and give it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really great. I thought Tarantino, the violence was wonderful, as usual. I thought everyone in it was great except for Jennifer Jason Leigh. Just my personal opinion, but she doesn't kill the movie for me. Yeah. I love the ending of the way they take out Jennifer Jason Leigh. You know, it's like, but when the hangman takes you hang. I'm like, perfect. There you go. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 as well. I'd be interested as well, because like Quentin, a lot of his movies been in all different sort of time periods. Wouldn't it be cool if like his next one's set in the future sometime? I'd like to see Quentin's version of the future. That'd be really cool.
I don't.
He works better in older times, doesn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Like because I don't think. I think Quentin would be too enamored if you give him like a futuristic world, he'd be too enamored with the world itself. I think, because the reason Quentin Tarantino works so well is because his characters built the world around them. But I think he would do the opposite of world if he had his tool to create a world. I mean, I don't know. I think I'd maybe like to see him do like a 1920s gangster film.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, like a 1920s gangster film, or like maybe do kind of like a horror film, kind of, because you know he's done the samurai film, he's done the crime drama, you know, he's done the westerns, you know, he's done
vampire movie once.
Oh yeah, well, what was it? Lost Boys.
Well, he deliberately he did Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh but, Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah,
that was because I remember that was like he deliberately did that because he just made Pulp Fiction and that was like a huge success. Yeah. So he wanted to do something that was so different. And because he knew that if he tries to do the same thing again and it's not on the same level, it could really damage sort of his reputation. So he did something so far removed that I think that was a good move for him. Yeah, but
I'd like to see him, because I know he wrote True Romance, but I'd like to see him direct maybe a romantic film. Like, give him a Nicholas Sparks novel. Give him the 50 Shades of Grey sequel, and you can like... I
agree. I think it's time for him to for his next movie to try something a little bit out of left field, because I think we've become accustomed to sort of the Tarantino-y kind of stuff, you know, and the type of dialogue and that.
I'm
So
willing to.
I
I'm
liked
willing.
him.
I'm willing to. I'm willing to see whatever it is he's putting out because
Yeah.
you think Hateful Eight. You hear Hateful Eight, another western, you're like, oh, you just did a western with Django, but then you realize it's a completely different film than Django. You know, maybe aesthetically it's a little similar, but with Django, it's very much, you know, a slave movie. But with this one, it is a die-hard western. John Wayne. You know, he's taking all the western tropes. You know, kind of like the. You know, Kurt Russell's very much the John Wayne, the Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven kind of, you know, he's putting him into this movie. He's taking the pumpy British fella from like the old Sherlock Holmes movies and put him in there. You know, like he clearly has a staple that he's making with all these westerns. So even if he does like another crime drama, I'm so interested because you know with Tarantino it's going to be something different. You're excited to see where he's going at. It's crazy, you know, growing up in the film world now because I've now been alive to see growing up seeing two Quentin Tarantino films in theaters. It's theater-ish. It's weird. I don't know. All right. All right. I remember being in the theater watching the trailer for Django Unchained. It's so weird.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right. So our nominees for Best Actor are Matt Damon, The Martian, Michael Fassbender, Steve Jobs, Leonardo DiCaprio, The Revenant, and let's just say for poops and giggles, Michael B. Jordan for Creed. And the winner is the Bear from The Revenant. Thank you very much, Bear. Come on up, guys. Why don't you? Someone please give that bear an Oscar. Oh my God!
He just
guys,
ravaged Leo.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking The Revenant, and we're going full spoilers. It's been out for a while now.
Yep.
If you haven't seen it, I had.
And we're also going full spoilers because it's not really the kind of movie that you can spoil. Like if you've seen the trailer, you basically know what the story is. There's not really any twists. There's no reveals.
You can spoil the ending. You can ruin the ending.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Okay,
so,
full spoilers.
You know,
Yeah.
I will say before we get into full spoilers, the movie has definitely a lot of issues, but overall it's incredibly well made. Go out and see it. It is a film that you should go out and see and get your own opinion on it. Being said.
Sorry, go on. Yep.
No, I was about to go into spoilers, but keep going.
I was just going to say, yeah, to sum up my general attitude towards it, like I think Red Letter Media put it best where they said, you know, I don't really know what the point of the movie was other than, look how good we are at making movies.
Ask me what it means. Ask me what it means. Like the nostalgia critic. Yes. Oh my God.
That's basically
you could
my
just feel the
thinking
pretentiousness like seeping off the screen. It was annoying.
Yeah. Like I mentioned this when we did our crossover with Film Brits. It's like every single shot, it's like every decision was made. You can hear the director whispering, "We want to win an Oscar. We want to win an Oscar." And,
but the problem is that the problem is that it looks awesome. That's the worst thing about it, though. It's like
beautiful, especially that opening action scene. There's lots of bits where the camera does like a full 360 shot around Leo, and there's action happening everywhere, and those are hard to do.
So much promise. That's what I'm saying. This movie. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, we're going full spoilers. Bandit.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on The Revenant?
Well, I think apart from like that whole thing of like, yeah, like definitely very well filmed. There were times where I think the like hyper stylized aspects of it actually made it difficult to understand what was happening. I remember there was one point in particular, which since we're at spoilers, I may as well go into it, when Leo crawls up to the French camp and there's the girl there who turns out later on to be the daughter of the Indian guy who's looking for her. Mm-hmm. And so he sneaks up, but then it cuts to a different camp where you see the dad who's looking for the daughter, and they're like, oh, there's a camp over in that direction. But the way it was cut, the first time I saw it, I was like, I thought the Indian guy was at the French camp, and I was like, wait a minute, why is he looking for his daughter? Doesn't he know his daughter's right over there?
Oh, okay.
But they tried to do some fancy transition thing, so...
Okay.
And there were other times where, like, they brought in a different character, and it's at the moment where Leo crawls up the bank and there's a guy eating a buffalo and throws him a chunk of meat. Like, I thought that guy was the same Indian guy who was looking for his daughter, but he wasn't. He was just some random guy. And I thought, couldn't they do something to, like, don't make him look so similar to the other guy? I'm not trying to say all Indian people look alike.
I know what you're saying. They may not know what you're saying, but I know what you're saying.
Give him a different outfit or give him a different haircut
it's like the planet. This is about to sound really racist. This is about to sound really racist. But it's like the Planet of the Apes thing, which sounds really racist. But it's like, they gave Koba a scar, and they gave Caesar's son blue eyes, so that you could tell the difference.
Yeah, you need to do that, but...
Yeah. Because it's weird. Like it's a weird thing to say, but it's something that you need to do.
Yeah. So I think they were focusing so much on like the art of filmmaking, but they missed some of the more basic stuff that the audience, or at least me, I was like just in storytelling and that, and also some issues with motivation. But we'll go into that later. Yeah. Well, what are your problems with it?
Well, it's not necessarily my problem. It's that like if we're going full thoughts on this and spoilers, it's like. This movie starts out awesome. Yeah. Everything that this movie was about was great. I'm not just talking about, it's not just the action that makes this movie great. It's it's the character stuff at the start, like right from the get-go. I think the first thing we see is the Leo hunting a deer with his son. And you're like, okay, established relationship. And then the Indian attack happens. And then, I saw this in the theater. I remember sitting in the theater because my friend refused to let me watch it on my phone. He's like, we're gonna go see it set. I'm like, all right. I remember sitting in the theater just like losing my mind, just like this is so great. Yeah. And then they go,
and it takes like 5 guys have to get shot in the throat before it's like drop to the ground. Don't just duck behind a tree, drop to the ground. But no, they just keep getting shot.
Yeah. And then, like, they get on the boat, and it's intense. And then they get back on the land, and, like, DiCaprio has a conversation with Tom Hardy. And then I think, some more stuff happens. And then Leo gets attacked by that bear. And then...
Which he doesn't stop moving around, by the way. That's another thing. Like, it mauls him, then it walks away, and then he starts moving around. So it's like, oh, it's still alive, runs back, mauls him again, then walks away. Then he moves around again, then it runs back, and I'm like, stay still, you idiot!
That's definitely not why. The bear... I sense an argument coming, but we're gonna come back to the bear attack. And then Tom Hardy, kills his son, and then they leave. All that happens, and then Leo crawls out of the pit. And then it is literally 50 minutes of trees and water and animals and staring and grunting and eating and trees shots. And water and nature and composing shots. And it's boring. It's boring. It's so boring. Remember when I said I saw Spectre and nearly fell asleep and I was just tired for the rest of the weekend? Yeah. That was me watching The Revenant. I was like, man, this is boring. And then they find Leo and it picks up all over again. And I'm like, why couldn't you shorten that 50 minutes of trees and crawling and crying?
It's 2 hours and 47 minutes long.
No
movie needs to be that long. It's
I call shenanigans. Is it really 2 hours and 47 minutes?
Yep.
I'm checking IMDb. All right, you keep talking.
Yeah, but I found other things, like there were other bits like after the initial attack from the Indians and they jump in the boat and they're going down the river, they have the conversation about whether they should stick to the river or whether they should try to go over land. And I don't feel like they really explained well enough why they abandoned the boat. Because like Leo does say, like, those Indians, they own that river. But I was like, but still, aren't you safer on the boat? Because you're basically like a little castle with a moat around you. Isn't that safer than going on land where they can just track you down? See, things like that they didn't bother to like properly explain, I felt.
I thought of it like the whole boat thing. I'm like, well, I think they're screwed either way, but at least with the land, they have a way of getting out. Like, because
But how could they get them on the boat? Are they going to like fish them? How could they even get them?
Well, they got spears and arrows and stuff. So like if they spot them,
but they can just
duck,
I guess. But
it's like
that's what I mean. Though they don't really explain that.
But they can swim. They can swim. I think it's more of a they kind of an implied thing. Like I think they even drop a line in the movie where it's like if we. We should get off on land. We should get off of here because they're. I think they also said they're waiting for them at the end of the river for the boat to show up. Yeah, and we clearly see that because when Leo gets down,
he says they own that river on land. At least we've got options. I
yeah,
guess that's true. On the river,
it's like,
you just go down the river. You got no other option.
Yeah, if they're in the forest, they can haul butt and try to get out of there. But if they're on the water, they're boned. because they're probably surrounding them at all points. But I will still give they probably should have thrown a line in there like that. But it's a shame. And let's get to the bear attack. It's a shame, really, because the bear attack might be my favorite singular scene from a movie this past in 2015. Maybe up there with the Kingsman church fight.
Yeah.
Of just sitting down, or the ending from Force Awakens, and just sitting down, watching a scene, and just being mesmerized that something like this can ever be conceived on a film. This is a scene where I watch it and I'm like, that's why I want to make movies. And I'm not trying to get all pretentious and sassy here, but it's like, that's why I want to make a movie, so that I can make a scene like that and have a kid sit down in a movie theater from years from now, watch a movie and be like, that's why I want to make a movie. Because right from the best part is when your reaction is the same reaction as the character's reaction, and you haven't seen the character's face yet. It's like, because when the Cubs come by and Leo has his rifle out, and I can hear my audience around me go, ooh, oh, S word, oh god, oh man, and then like Leo's face turns around and he's just like, oh man, oh boy, and then he hears the growling and he's just like, oh, and the audience just goes, oh, like, and then he turns and looks away and the bear runs at him. He's just like, oh god, the bear just like tosses him in the tree like the Hulk and just destroys him, like, not too bad, but just like wrecks him. And then...
Mind you, look, he wasn't a very good scout, was he? I mean, if he's a scout, shouldn't he know that if there's like baby bears around, there's probably a parent around?
I think that's why he looks.
I know I'm being like an armchair.
I think that's why he looks scared. That's why he stopped in his tracks,
but he
right?
doesn't even look around. Like, I know I'm just being an armchair expert. Like
no, because
as soon as I saw those bears, I was like, immediately, where's the mother? He doesn't even look around.
That's what he's thinking, right? Like you watch the scene, he has his rifle, he sees the Cubs, and he stops in his tracks. First thing he does is turn around and look for that bear, because the bear is right nearby.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't turn around.
Yeah.
He just stares at them for like a good 35-40 seconds, and then the bear comes up behind him.
Oh no, because
what a
remember
lame scout.
No. He stops and stares because he's trying to listen for the mother, and then when he hears the mother, he turns around and because Leo had that same thought. Glass. The first thing he heard when he sees the bear, he's like, "All right, where's mom? Where's the mama?" Because he knows the mom's not far behind.
Doesn't seem very alert to me.
I have an instant plot hole for you.
Also,
right there.
the fact that he didn't want them to kill him is also shows he wasn't a very good scout. But we'll get into that more.
Okay,
I should have blinked more for Tom Hardy.
But here's something we can't agree on. Why wasn't the bear hibernating?
Oh yeah, because it's winter, isn't it?
Why weren't they hibernating? That's the biggest plot hole in this movie. Why weren't they hibernating?
Well, actually, you should know, because this was based off a real life story, for anyone who doesn't know, but it actually happened in the summertime, and there was a scene where, well, in the true story of like Hugh Glass, his name was. How's that? I actually remembered a name. Amazing. But there was a bit where, because his back was all clawed up, his skin was basically rotting, so he found a broken log that had a lot of maggots in it. And he leaned back on it, and the maggots went and ate all the dead flesh away. And they wanted to have that scene in this, but because they decided to set it in the winter instead of the summer, of course there wouldn't be any maggots around because they come out in the summertime and all that. So for the same reason as to why the bear wasn't hibernating, it's because they changed it to winter when it should have been summertime. Yeah.
I mean, I guess they just want to have Leo out in the snow.
Because it's more dramatic. A man who's immune to hypothermia.
Look. Maybe Leo was being stupid, but hey, we all do stupid stuff when we're scared. I mean, it's like the knowledge that we have nowadays in terms of what to do with a bear attack and all this.
Yeah, like I will give the like we know you go in the fetal position unless it's a black bear, then you fight it off.
Yeah,
but I guess he wouldn't have known
I know that now. I know that now, but it's like there are, I will give them the benefit of the doubt that there are things that they probably do not know now. Like for example, but to be fair, Leo, you're not an idiot. Maybe don't try to shoot it again because it clearly didn't work the first time. I will give him that though. He didn't give up, and I kind of looked at a Mortal Kombat fight. He's like round 2 fight, and like immediately like his special gun move didn't work, and the bear started like trembling again. How cool was it? He tried crawling away, like he reached his arm out, and the bear like grabbed his wrist and like snapped his wrist in half.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was brutal. You could hear like the.
I think it was a good mixture of like there were some CG shots, but I think it was also an animatronic thing as well.
You think? I thought it was all CG.
Oh really? I thought there was.
Oh, I haven't read anything about it, but it looked all CG to me. Well, that being said, the CG is great. Oh, sorry for people that heard that. I dropped a pen. But
I think there was only one shot where it was really obvious, but the rest of it was pretty seamless. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this director, for all his pretentiousness that I will give him, he knows how to. And it's really cool to see that this guy that did Burma knows how to shoot action really well, because this bear attack felt so personal. And I will give him in that, I felt like that. Look, I know he doesn't get raped. I know he doesn't get raped by the bear. I know he doesn't get a Sam Jackson by the bear. But
there are a few shots where it looks like it, doesn't it?
Exactly. There are a few scenes where I'm like, is he gonna get? No. Okay. I have no idea why, but there's a split second where I'm like, no. He's not, like, when it starts like jumping on his back and like trying to break his spine or whatever. Yeah. And then I'm just like, is she? No. That's a girl bear. No.
Mama bear is your daddy.
You see Sam Jackson's face on it and starts laughing. No, but it's like, and when it gets all up in its face and she's sniffing to see if he's dead, and like the camera's fogging up, you're just like, wow, this is really good. This is terrifying.
I like the bit where it puts its paw on his head and starts like pushing it, and he's like, ugh. Yeah.
And because the eye just like, shh, stay quiet, shh, just sit there, stay quiet, shh. Yeah. Oh man, but when he reaches for his gun, I'm like, oh, he's gone. Like if he wasn't gonna die, he was gonna die now, man. Round 2 fight, and
what do you think of Tom Hardy's character?
Well, no, I thought we were really good. Well, he didn't.
He was very articulate, wasn't he?
I thought he was wonderful. I thought Tom Hardy once again knocked it out of the park. I think he's better than this, and he is in Mad Max. So that's not saying much, but
sure.
Man,
can I say, like, in the real Hugh Glass, what happened? The ending's completely different. I mean, for one thing, in the real guy never had a son, so that's pretty much the whole movie gone there. But the real guy, he does try to track down Tom Hardy's character. But what happened is because at the end of this movie, they do mention that Tom Hardy's leaving because he's going to join the army again. So that happened in real life. The guy left, but he did get to the army and he did join the army. So by the time Hugh Glass tracked him down, he's like, well, I can't kill a soldier. He's like, if I kill a soldier, I'll be like hung or whatever. So they did sort of have a conversation, and he kind of forgave him. And it was actually that the guy, Tom Hardy's character, because you remember in the movie, when they're about to abandon Leo, he sort of grabs his rifle. He's like, well, he doesn't need this anymore. And in real life, when they met up again, the Tom Hardy guy did give Leo back his rifle again. Yeah. So, and I thought, I thought that might have actually been better if they stuck with what actually happened rather than doing this whole fictional, he killed my son, I'm going to get revenge and then murder him. Because I thought that would have actually been more powerful, because they were trying to go with this whole thing of like, vengeance is not mine to take, it's God's. And I'm going to decide that now after I've stabbed him 25 times. Yeah, it's a real good message, Lee.
But Bandit, the trees, man. What about all the trees and the grass and the clouds and that 5-minute shot of the clouds and breathing?
Yeah, by the way, Hollywood, if you want to have an hour, a movie that goes for 2 hours and 47 minutes, don't have that last 10 minutes taking place next to a running stream of water when everyone's hanging onto their bladders. It doesn't help.
Yeah, and for correction, it's 2 hours and 36 minutes. Hateful 2 hours and 47 minutes, but really? Close enough, man. It's nearly 3 hours with those previews. Like, man, you're right. You're right. I remember I really had to pee after it was over. I really had to go by the time the movie was over.
Also, nitpicking the writing again is like, they obviously wanted Tom Hardy to be the bad guy, but see, again, I don't think they really thought it through, the whole thing of why they abandoned him and how they abandoned him. Because like Tom Hardy's like, he kills his son, super shady in how he abandons him. But the fact is that he's like, even though he lies to the younger kid and he's like, there's Indians down by the river, we got to go right now. And they leave. But the Indians do show up the very next day. So if he hadn't got him out of there, they would have been killed. So yes. Tom Hardy was right, And if Leo had just blinked, not only would his son have lived, but they all would have made it back to the fort okay.
Yeah.
Because I kind of thought about it, because, here's the thing, with sailors have a thing, which I've mentioned before in one of my other videos on my channel. Sailors at sea have a thing called the custom of the sea, which is like an unwritten rule that if you're shipwrecked or if you're out on a raft, this is back in the day, whenever, and there's nothing else to eat and one of the crew dies, it's an unwritten rule. You can eat the other guy. That's basically what the custom of the sea was. And all the sailors kind of understood it. You got to do what you got to do, but they didn't really talk about it back in civilized society. But even in civilized society, like in England, there are a couple of court cases where like sailors were found innocent because they just did what they had to do to survive. But I thought, isn't there like, I know this movie's not set on the sea, it's set on the frontier, but isn't there like a frontier equivalent of custom of the sea, that if you're being chased by a bunch of Indians that want to kill you, this guy's probably going to die anyway, you just leave him?
Well, I mean, it's like what Donald Gleason tells, he tells Tom Hardy, he's like, you care for him until need be.
Well, he's about to shoot him, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
I would be for what Tom Hardy had to say, and he's like, proper thing would be to finish him off quick. He's right. He's right. The best thing to do is to take him out quick and not let him suffer. However, if he wasn't such an a-hole, because right from the get-go, like, man, is he a dick. Like, oh my God, you think the Hateful Eight are bad? He needs to be in that cabin. Oh my God, is he terrible. Like,
he's horrible what he does.
He's the worst.
He kind of does it for the right reasons, but he's awful about it, yeah.
Like, he's been hardened by, because he said he was a soldier, right? Like, he's clearly been hardened by, like, war and the environment. That being said, so is everybody else, unless isn't he like the oldest or whatever? Like, he's clearly been through some trauma. He's not right in the head. He's crazy, but he's a dick. Like,
yeah. But if he had talked to Leo or whatever and been like, look, the Indians are going to catch us, and they're not just going to kill me and this other kid, they're going to kill your son too. So if you want to save your son's life, you have to let us leave you.
And that's what he said.
Your son will die. Like, if he said
that's what he told him. That's essentially what he told him.
But Leo's still like, no, I don't care. I'm gonna.
But that's because if someone like Donald Gleason's character told him that, I think he would have let it killed him. I think it's the fact that it was Tom Hardy. Because Fitzgerald was such an such an a-hole to him, like, from the get-go. Like, he wouldn't let Leo do his job at certain points, and that's where, I think that's why if Donald Gleason stayed behind and said, look, class, you know your boy, you want what's best for your boy, well, your boy's not going to survive if we keep caring for you, and you know this, so just nod, and we'll make this quick, and that's what Tom Hardy says. But the fact that
he does that dirty trick where he's like, just blink, but then he keeps waiting and waiting, so eventually he has to blink.
Leo, don't you blink. Don't you dare close
your
eyes.
But he keeps waiting and he can't hold his eyes, and then he finally blinks. He's like, oh, there we go. I'm going to smother you now.
Yeah, because his eyes are drying out. No kidding. No wonder he blinks. And yeah, maybe maybe the true story would have been nicer to tell of him, given his rifle back. But I think, in terms of, we needed a reason to see Leo crawl through the snow for 2.5 hours. Yeah. Because that's the only thing that saves this movie, is that end. Like, if that ending wasn't as cool as it was, if that fight wasn't as great as it was, if that chase wasn't as good as it was, this movie would have been crap. Like, I would have given this movie a negative review if it wasn't as good. If that ending wasn't as good.
What actually happened was, I don't think they were being chased by Indians. Hugh Glass didn't have a son. And those guys did wait around to stay with him, but they were worried that because it was taking so long, they thought the other party is going to get so far ahead of us that we won't be able to pick up their trail and we'll all get lost. So they just left in the middle of the night, and they left Hugh Glass. So he just woke up in the morning and he was just by himself. Yeah. So that's kind of more of a betrayal, because they weren't being chased by Indians or whatever. Like, Indians did show up and later on, but at that time they weren't. So it was more of like a betrayal. Yeah. Because, it was just that they were worried they couldn't make it back, I
mean, all you gotta do is wake him up and be like, yo, we gotta go. We gotta go. Like, all you gotta do is, like, if I were them, I would have, like, picked him up and maybe put him in a cave somewhere. I wouldn't have left him out in the open. I would have buried him alive. Good God. Come on, man. And kill his son right in front of him. I have a picture of Tom Hardy, like, the look he gives Leo's kid when he stabs him, just like this soulless, dead eye as he's stabbing him. And Leo, God bless him, he has the best, like, in pain agony scream ever. Like it's played for laughs in Wolf of Wall Street when trying to get in the car. But in this one, you're just like, man, come on. All I can think of was Wolf of Wall Street, though, when he was trying to get in the car. That's all I can think of right now was Oh boy, my mom's laughing. That's all I could think of was Wolf of Wall Street. But man,
Yeah.
oh boy, Glass was. Ooh, okay.
But I think the bit where like Tom Hardy's like irredeemably the bad guy is when the young kid's like, yeah, how many of them did you see and what were you doing down there? And then he like gets the gun off him and he like pulls the trigger when he's got it at the kid's head.
Yeah.
But it's like wasn't loaded. I think that's the moment where you're like, okay, yeah, he is the bad guy.
Yeah, short memory, boy. That's a good line.
Yeah.
Short memory, boy.
I like that's how he tells the kid that story where he's like, you know, my old man, he didn't believe in God. If he couldn't, couldn't see it, he didn't believe it. And then he tells a story about how he's starving and he finds like a squirrel.
Yeah.
And he's like, he found God and God's a squirrel. And he cooked it and he ate it.
Yeah. See, when I first saw that, I thought I heard that wrong because maybe I was just so bored about what was going on in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like I looked at it as I didn't hear that it was his father. I heard that it was just a guy, and how when he found God, he thought it was a squirrel. I thought he said he killed and ate the guy that told him God was a squirrel. But afterwards, I heard that it was he killed and ate the squirrel. I was like, no, he killed and ate the guy, right? He's just like, I killed and ate that SOB. I was like, oh, he killed and ate somebody. Like, oh no, he killed and ate the squirrel. Okay, yeah,
yeah. But in many ways, his character was kind of more interesting than Leo's because apart from Leo being not a very good scout. Like I just found Tom Hardy's character more interesting.
I think you're being a little too critical, Bandit. It was the early 1800s.
Yeah,
right?
I'll give him the pass for not knowing about the bear and not playing dead and all the rest of it. And yeah, but I think a real scout would have wanted them to leave him. But anyway, whatever. What do I know? Anyway, I'm not a 19th century scout. How do I know? But I found Tom Hardy's character more interesting and like how he's got like half scalped.
Ooh, that was a nice touch.
Yeah, that was cool. That looked really cool. And he's got that line where General Hux is like, he's like, I don't want to leave the furs here. He's like, well, do you want to keep the furs or your life? Your life. And he goes, what life are you talking about? I don't have a life. I just got living. And to live, I need these pelts. I thought, that's great. That's a great line. That sort of tells you everything you need to know about Tom Hardy's character in that one line, yeah.
He definitely has more stuff to do. Tom Hardy definitely, I think... It's kind of like Denzel Washington in Training Day. It's like, no, he's great, but he should have got the Oscar a long time ago.
Yeah.
Malcolm X, Philadelphia, Glory. He should have got it a long time ago. It's like, Leo's great, but Wolf of Wall Street, Departed, Blood Diamond, like, he should have got it a long time ago. I
agree. I think we talked about this a while back because we both want to see Leo get an Oscar. I think it was in our first episode when we talked about Wolf of Wall Street.
Speech. I want that speech. And I want him to end his speech with, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If he does that, I will cry. I'll be like, "There you go, Leo." Have you seen that GIF of when Oscar Isaac won the won a Golden Globe or something, and Harrison Ford's looking at him like nodding his head, smiling, and now there's like a meme going around of like, "I want my dad to be as proud of me as Harrison Ford was of Oscar Isaac." I want my dad to give me that look of like, I'm proud of you, boy. Like that's if you see that picture, it's Harrison Ford like smiling. He's like, he's so happy for Oscar Isaac. I'm like, oh, I'm happy, Papa. Sorry, I just digress. Do you want to? Why do you think Alexander Gonzalez Iñárritu, who really knocked it out of the park with Birdman, a movie that I think gets better with age. Like the more you go back and watch it, the better I think the movie gets. Why do you think he spent so much time in these gosh darn woods? Why were there so many shots of trees?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because he got so much praise for like the way that he filmed Birdman. Where he's like, well, I can do it even better here. See, it's like,
there was one tree. There was one tree, Berman. How about a whole sea of trees? Yeah. Trees is probably
basically what he did here was exactly what Quentin Tarantino was trying to avoid after Pulp Fiction when he went and made the vampire movie.
Yeah,
so this guy did the opposite of Quentin. There, he's like, I could do it even more, and we're like, ugh, come on.
I want to see him. I want him to. And the reason Birdman works so well is because it's all done in one take, kind of, but. That's just to help the story flow. That's because the movie feels like a play. That's the whole point of the movie being kind of in one take, simulation at least. It's because it feels like a play. You're watching this character slowly digress into madness as his life goes on, of course, of a couple of days. But with The Revenant, you're watching months go by, maybe not months, but like a long time go by, and and you don't want to. I can buy the fact that Leo fell off a horse, 50 to 100 feet and survive. That's just stuff that I have to start. I have
Did
to buy.
Really do that?
What do you mean, like in? Oh, you mean like in real life? No, of course not. But I just
because like online, some people were like, "Oh, he actually made the fall." I was like, "No, I don't think that would."
he actually slept in the. I know he actually slept in a horse. But speaking of which,
that's
in the
another thing
credits-
Red Letter Media said. Like when he eats the meat, they're like, "Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio actually ate the meat," and it's like, well, great, but you shouldn't give someone an Oscar for that. If you do, give it to the Jackass guys. One of them put a leech on his eye.
In the end credits, they say, no animals are harmed making a movie. I was like, nah, I don't buy that for no animals are harmed. BS, beef shank. I don't buy that for a second. You killed and gutted a horse.
Yeah.
No.
But
you ate a bison liver.
Going back to your point about like the director with Birdman and then with this, I think the reason maybe why Birdman works so well and this doesn't is because like that sort of stylized version of storytelling really works because Michael Keaton's like character with Birdman, there's so much going on beneath the surface. Mm-hmm. But Revenant, there's nothing much to it.
No.
It's basically like Birdman. There's layers of complexity there under it. This is just he just wants to get back and beat up Tom Hardy.
If we're gonna have an analogy here, because I know you love the analogies.
I do.
Let's say Birdman's like this 12-layer dip. There's cheese. There may be cheese and stuff on top, but below there's sour cream and beans and sour and a bunch of other stuff that you like in your dip. But with Birdman, it's just like, yeah, spinach dip, awesome. Or with Revenant, it's like spinach dip, great. One aspect to it, and it looks really cool, awesome.
Yeah.
And you put some nice little DiCaprio chips in there, and it's like great, awesome.
What it's like? It's like a song with one note. That's what it is. The note's great, but it just keeps doing it.
Wow. Yeah, but I don't think I got tired of the note. If we're gonna look at that, like the movie still, no matter how bored I got, the movie still looked like I have to give him all the credit. More like Emmanuel Lubezki shot the heck out of this movie, cinematography wise. But a movie has to be more than just looks. Otherwise, we should like if this movie wins Best Picture, I'm going to be very upset because if that's the case, then why didn't we give a movie like? Why didn't we give maybe not Transformers. Why don't we give Avatar Best Picture?
I've got the perfect analogy. The Revenant is like a swimsuit model with bad breath and a history of grisly murders. It doesn't matter how good it looks, you don't want to be anywhere near it, and you'll never take it home. There you go. That's the Revenant.
I don't see the core. Man, what do you do on your Friday nights?
What did Steve Jobs? He's like, I can't even think of an analogy to describe what you've done. See, we got the same problem here.
I see what. I just think that this movie it's like a compliment sandwich. It's like it looks great. The first 40 minutes is awesome, but you really slacked in the middle. But then that ending's really great, but you still slacked in that middle. Like that middle chunk really drags up this movie down for me. It's really boring. It's really slow.
The very beginning and the very end's good. The rest is boring.
Yeah, exactly. Which is I'm so upset because this movie, all the best parts of the movie you see are in the first chunk and the last chunk of the movie. I'd say you can knock out 40 minutes of this movie.
Oh yeah, easily.
Get it below 2 hours.
I think this would always be better as like a home rental DVD thing, because that way you can stop halfway through. You can go take a break and come back. But if you're stuck in the theater for all that time, it's going to be an ordeal.
Oh, it really was. It's a shame because that bear attack had me so hooked. And when they killed his son and buried him, I was so hooked. But it's like I can't sit there and watch DiCaprio, do that for an hour and a half. I can't sit there and watch that happen. It's a shame because Hateful Eight is so long. Hateful Eight is longer than this movie, but I had a much more better time watching Hateful Eight than I would. Yeah. I'd much rather watch the entirety of Hateful Eight than the entirety of The Revenant, which sucks.
Yeah, well, Hateful Eight is like it starts out kind of small, but it builds and builds and builds and gets you more invested and more invested as it goes along. With Revenant, it starts out with great action scene, bear attack, and all the rest of it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway,
so what do you give it at 10, Bandit?
I'm I give it like maybe 5 out of 10, and those 5 is just for the cinematography.
Wow, that's really low. All right. I was gonna go 6.5. Just because that bear attack's great. All the action's wonderful.
Oh, that's right. The bear attack. All right. I'll bump it up to 6 because of the bear attack.
And the end fight is really cool, but a lot of the decisions didn't really bother me like they bother you apparently in movies.
Yeah.
I just think that middle chunk, like that whole hour and a half chunk, just like, come on, man, come on, Inarritu, you got to do better than that. Like, I don't know. It seemed, like you said, it seemed really pretentious, and it's a shame that a movie like I don't want to put this back to Star Wars, but it's a shame that a movie like Star Wars, which I feel like doesn't have, with the exception of the Ranthars, does not have a slow beat in the movie where you just like, let's get past this, and then and that gets Oscars for how it looks and how and the visual effects or whatever. But a movie like Revenant, which is basically all just visual effects and not much underneath it, can get 12 Oscar nominations for storytelling and direction and acting and whatnot. And meanwhile, Star Wars is over here doing what I would argue more than The Revenant and gets nothing, and that's beef shank. I'm a little annoyed.
It gets nothing except for being the highest grossing movie of all time.
But
poor
money
Force Awakens. Yeah, forgive me for not feeling sorry for Force Awakens. Money
doesn't have
Force
anything
Awakens
to do
gets
with
plenty of love.
No, Bandit. Money has nothing to do with it. Transformers made money. Get the money aspect out of your mind. Looking at it as what movie gets praised for is what I'm trying to get at. More movie gets recognized for.
Force Awakens still gets plenty of love. I'm
just saying. The Academy is what nominates the year's best in film. And I feel like there's this mindset that needs to get out. It's beef shank.
Yeah. When do the Oscars get awarded anyway?
Let's see. It'll be it's the last Sunday of February, so it'll be the 28th. February 28th is when they come out. Yeah.
Oh wow! It's a whole nother month. Wow.
Yeah. So
a month and a half. Oh my.
I think we may not do a podcast that Sunday because I'll be watching them. Yeah. So we'll do a podcast that Monday and talk about them, I guess.
Come on, Mad Max. We've got to get Best Picture.
It's not. Great. It's going to be either Revenant or Spotlight, but sorry.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But neither of them deserves it.
It's definitely I haven't seen Spotlight yet, but it's probably the best film on that list. I've seen pretty much everything else. Was Hateful Eight nominated for Best Picture? I might give it a Hateful Eight. Hateful Eight's really great. Just I don't know. Okay, then moving on. That was The Revenant.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right, listener questions. This is the segment of the show in which I will post on the Facebook page of Movie Mania podcast on the Facebook page, in which case I will ask, time for you guys to post your listener questions, in which case you will comment questions for me and Ben to answer on the show, and then we will talk about them, and we will get you a little shout out on the show, all that wonderful stuff. Ben Billington, what a lovely name, by the way. Ben Billington asks, if you could have your memory erased of one movie so you could watch it again for the first time and experience it all with no knowledge of what it is or what was going to happen, what film would you choose and why?
That's a good question, isn't it?
It really is.
I know it's the easy choice, but I'd have to go with Empire Strikes Back.
Well, see, my first thought is to go Dark Knight, but my thing is that if I can't watch Dark Knight for the first time on the big screen, I don't want to watch Dark Knight. That's my thing, because I can watch Dark Knight now and be like, oh, I love this, this, and this, and this. But the reason I got so enamored with Dark Knight is because I saw it for the first time when I was 8 years old on an IMAX screen, and it blew my mind. But I'll go with Empire Strikes Back, because if you don't know anything about the film, you're going to have your mind blown. Oh my god, just imagine. Oh my god, not knowing that twist and being in the theater or being in your living room and sitting there and he's like, no, I am your father. I can imagine like someone will be downstairs and you just hear like, what the F? Oh my god. So it's just like he's watching Empire, like, oh okay, alright. And he's going like you hear him pause, it's like, oh what? No, like Luke's reaction is his reaction, he's like, no! What? Yeah, Empire is a great one to go with, though. I'd probably go with Empire as well. Or Whiplash. Whiplash is another good one to go with. Where
really,
just like,
Whiplash?
Well, just because you don't expect Whiplash to be as good as it is right away. Like with Whiplash, I mean, Whiplash has instant rewatchability factor, which is great. But if you go on a Whiplash and like you're able to start from the beginning again and kind of dissect these characters, which is a fun thing to do, I think. Trying to discover where Andrew's probably going to go after this whole thing's over. You know, I think Whiplash is a fun process to go to in terms of watching a movie. I love Whiplash. Yeah. Or Mad Max.
I might also go with Die Hard, watching that again for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I remember I watched that when I was a young guy, and that just blew my mind. It was so gloriously violent. It was amazing.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. Bring me my detonators. Yeah. Oh man. Hopefully he's. Yeah.
You hear that? Where are my detonators? Pretty.
Here's hoping Alan Rickman's in heaven with. Here's hoping Alan Rickman's in heaven with all the detonators he needs. Oh, all the detonators he wants. All the detonators and potion homeworks he needs. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. I think there's one here which actually it's just someone giving us a homework assignment. Alex Zepp says, I have homework assignment for both Trey and Bandit. Watch original Full Metal Alchemist anime series. It seems like a couple of people have asked that. I don't even know what it is.
No, I won't. Not yet. Wait till summer. No.
Full Metal Alchemist anime series. Like, maybe, because if it's like 20 episodes, I'm not going to watch it all. If I have time, I'll watch some of it.
I work in the library at my school, and I think it's based off a book series. I might be wrong. I'm thinking of something else, but those books are there's like 60 books. So, no, thank you. I have a lot to catch up. Walking Dead comes back in 2 weeks. No.
Oh, great. It's back in 2 weeks.
I got a project due in 2.5 weeks. I got EOC, and of course exams to take pretty soon. No, thank you. I just finished. I can't. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, Alex. I'm sure you're an awesome person.
It's fine. I think our listeners know because every single time homework comes up, you always say how busy you are. So,
well, it's true.
I think we all get it. Okay,
it's true.
You're very busy. We get it.
There's a reason I started the podcast an hour late today, Bandit. All right.
So yeah, I might have a look at Full Metal Alchemist if I get the time. So you got another question
fine.
on your end?
We'll put a moratorium on how busy I am with schoolwork. Fine. We'll put a moratorium on how busy I am with school.
Well, you're exempt from homework just because you have to catch up on Game of Thrones.
You're telling me. I will watch Moon. I will make that. I've said that before.
Forget about that. Just Game of Thrones. We have to get Game of Thrones going.
Well, once I finish Game of Thrones, because that comes back in April, doesn't it? Oh boy.
Yeah. Just forget about everything else. You just got to catch up on that.
Well, I have a week during spring break to watch it, so that's going to be my Game of Thrones watch. Because I'm also working on a short film right now. I'm very busy. Let's see. Okay, I have another one here from Shazeb Ali. He asked. He says, "Would you guys ever consider asking the fans what they would want you to talk about instead of deciding amongst yourselves?"
No, because we review whatever movies are out right now.
I said yes. I say yes. Just because,
if a movie's out, we review it, and if something's coming up, we'll review like we are with Batman v Superman. So it's not really up to us. We just sort of look at what's out at the moment.
I think of it, maybe I would always consider having an episode that's kind of like, because, listener based, or maybe like a Q&A episode or something like, if it's like, hey, do you want to talk about this? Like someone asked if we were going to do the Bourne films. And I said, well, I mean, Bourne 5 is coming out, so we might consider it later on. But it's like, I don't think we should completely take the audience out of it. I think because there's going to be eventually pretty soon, there's going to be a week where we have nothing to talk about. And we'll be like, okay, guys, what do you guys want us to talk about this week? I'm sure we'll have a free week sometime in the next few months.
Yeah, that's right. We only got one.
Yeah,
that's right. But remember, we're booked up because I think until Deadpool comes out.
Yeah, because I know next week is Dark Knight, and then the week after that, I don't know what the week after that will be.
Because remember, we worked it out last week because between now and Batman v Superman, there's Deadpool and there's 10 Cloverfield Lane. So between that and us doing the Dark Knight movies, we're pretty much set.
Yeah, we'll do next week will be Dark Knight, and the week after that will be Deadpool. And then I think the week after that will be Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises.
Then it will be 10 Cloverfield Lane. Then it will be Man of Steel. Then it will be Batman.
Well, 10 Cloverfield Lane comes out on March 10th, or March 11th, which is a week between. Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying, like, we'll figure it out. But I have my
yeah.
Star Wars calendar in front of me, so I'm looking at the dates. I'm like,
Well, there
I
is
should look every year.
segue.
Yeah.
There is actually, because one of our, I think it was the same guy actually, Shazeb Ali said, podcast idea: ambiguous endings explained. Discuss movies that have ambiguous endings, like American Psycho, for instance. What do you think happened? Like, that'd be a good episode. We should do something like that. Like, American Psycho, was he dreaming at all? Inception, did it really tap over? You know, stuff like that. That'd be a good idea for an episode, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good for the questions. We'll bank some of these because there were actually some really good ones here. But it is time. It's running late. Time is running late here. It's 11:40 here at my lovely estate. I got school tomorrow, so there you go, bringing up school again, Trey. All right, so thank you guys all for watching. This is a wonderful podcast talking a lot of the films that we saw over the past week and a half or so, ranting about the Revenant and why it's pretentious nonsense. So yeah, Bandit, where can people find you?
The people can find me on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter as Bandit Incorporated, and they can find you.
They can find me on the YouTubes, Twitters, and Instagrams, and all at Trey White or Podcast Media. Thank you guys all who are subscribing to me. Thank you guys for all Instagram commenting me and tagging me and things. It's awesome to see you guys. Contact me. It's wonderful. Community. Join us next week when we talk The Dark Knight, my favorite movie of all time. See you next week, and thank you for watching Movie Maniacs.